Good evening, guys. It's Saturday night. It is Pontificating with Pete on Revolutionary Change. Hope you're all doing well. You know the drill. And I already saw one person in the chat right off the bat. Is this channel dying? Well, I wouldn't say it's dying. I would just say that they're trying to kill us, but we're not going to let them do that. So make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure that you have clicked the bell. Make sure that you share the stream if you can. We've already been testing the waters to confirm just how much our channel is getting hit. And it is getting hit pretty hard, as you can imagine. But with that being said, we're not going to stop doing what we do. So we're very appreciative for each and every one of you that are here already and are going to help us get this out there to as many people as possible. Is this channel smothered? Yes, I would say that that's an appropriate, that's definitely one of several terms you could use to describe the channel. And one of our OGs, Chris Garrett, it's great to see you already in the stream. And What Democracy, liked and shared. Appreciate you, my friend. And so, guys, we are going to have friend of the show, Mel Witte, who is going to come on this evening to talk about Charlie Kirk, particularly the latest breakthroughs that are happening right now in relation to what Jen and I have always maintained was the most likely cause of his death, an exploding microphone in his lapel. That seems to be the prevailing theory that is starting to become mainstream. I'm not a beard guy. I can do scruff, but you know, I've done a few different things before. I just don't think that that's my style. It's just not for me. I also particularly like having a more youthful look, and I think when I grow my beard out, I end up looking older as a result. So I'll stick with what has been working for me, but I always welcome suggestions. It doesn't mean that I won't do something. Like on Halloween, I grew out a goatee, and everybody thought that that was really weird. So anything, you know, I like changing up the hairstyle every once in a while, so we'll get creative like that. With that being said, I want to open tonight with a story that I have been holding back for a while because I wanted all of the chips to be on the table before I did it. For those that know me, know that I had contemplated joining the U.S. military when I was 18, right after 9/11. And I am obviously very thankful that I didn't. Lord knows what might have happened. I've seen what has happened to some good friends of mine. With that being said, if there is a person who truly embodies the very worst, and I mean the very worst, of the military-industrial complex in the United States, and has for a very long time, it is John Bolton. And this is going to be a multi-layer story that will bring us right in to when Mel arrives in about a half an hour. And so here's what you need to remember about John Bolton. And so much of what we know about him stems from many decades of being at the forefront of the neocon movement. He, you know, side by side with Bill Kristol, which is kind of amazing in many ways. You know, the fact that Bill Kristol is such a mainstay in shit-lib America really says a lot about how much all of the propaganda that we hear surrounding endless war and who supports it, who doesn't. I mean, let's be honest, it's a class war in so many ways, not just the ways we think about economically. It's a class war socially. It's a class war foreign policy-wise. It's a class war domestic policy-wise, and that includes warfare as well. And so this is a take you back to the beginning type clip from the early stages of the war in Iraq with Peter Robinson, of all people. But this is John Bolton basically letting the cat out of the bag, as he always did. When it came to endless war, wars that he would never dare fight in, but he would always find a way to send you off to die for his cause. So here he is.
The threshold question, were we right to go to war?
I don't think there's any question that the decision to overthrow Saddam Hussein was the correct decision. I think you have to look at what happened in Iraq through the prism of two separate questions. Was the initial decision correct, and was what happened subsequently the way we wanted it to be? The answer to the first question, to me, despite the events of the 6 years after the invasion, is still unquestionably yes. The regime itself, Saddam Hussein, his Ba'ath Party, were threats to peace and security in the region and the larger world. Whatever the extent of his weapons of mass destruction, there is absolute doubt that once Saddam got free of UN sanctions and UN weapons inspectors, he would have returned to the path of weapons of mass destruction.
And this has always been the warmongers' talking point. Well, if we don't kill him, if we don't disable the region, then they could come after us. And Bolton's been talking this nonsense for over, well, I guess 3 decades now.
He kept together 1,000 nuclear scientists and technicians. He called them his nuclear mujahideen. They were clearly intended to be the source of a new nuclear weapons program. So overthrowing that regime, I think, really simply finished the unfinished business of the 1991 Gulf War.
Yeah. And how was it that former President George Bush understood that going into and destabilizing Iraq was a terrible decision? We cannot police the world. But again, it isn't about policing the world. It's about taking control of the rich natural resources. George H.W. Bush was head of the CIA. He understood a lot of this better than most. Now, of course, when Georgie boy got in there and wanted to flex his muscles and show how tough he was willing to listen to John Bolton and tell him what to do. And he certainly listened to him, didn't he? Oh. It's like looking right into the sun, and he's going to tell that sun what to do. So that's just the start. John Bolton has had many hits, but this one in particular I really like, from 2008, I believe, when, or 2009, a Iraq veteran soldier was in the audience for a conversation that Bolton was having with John Stossel. And here's what he had to say.
Yes, sir.
In 2009, I deployed to Iraq as a member of 3rd Ranger Battalion. And while I was there, a corporal in my company was killed by a 13-year-old with an SKS. They weren't going after a 13-year-old. I have little brothers, and I also have guns, and if my country was invaded, I hope my little brother would have the guts to defend me if they came to haul me off with a black bag, which is...
And this is something that Jen and I talk about at great length on this channel, that we will continue to talk about at great length as long as we're doing this. One person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter. Here's a person who went in to a country that he wasn't welcomed in and saw exactly what they were there to do. Of course, it was there to steal the oil. We're totally there for the oil, and steal all the natural resources. And as a result, what you see has spiraled as a result. This is a veteran who's come back and said, what the hell were we doing there? We weren't there trying to liberate the Iraqi people. We know now for certain that that was not our intention. And here's Mr. Bolton saying that, oh, this was a great idea. This is a wonderful war. And yet, here's a very level-headed guy in a pretty conservative audience. I mean, John Stossel is a libertarian-leaning conservative, so the response from the audience is very telling.
This is what we were doing. We were black-bagging people and confiscating their guns, just being, the jackbooted thugs. And so what I want to ask you, sir, is how do you feel about the concept of blowback? The idea that they're really only fighting us because we're over there, because that's what I saw when I was in Iraq.
Where Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I think you've done a grave disservice to the hundreds of thousands of other Americans who served with honor in Iraq, who followed our military law and doctrine, who did not harm innocent civilians, and fought for the defense of this country. And if there are abuses, I'm sure you brought them to the attention of your higher authority. or if you didn't, you should bring them to the public's attention now, because in our country, when people violate our military law and doctrine, they're prosecuted for it.
Oh boy, if only Mr. Bolton knew what future lied ahead for him. Well, now we're going to speed it up and get to the more modern day in terms of where we are now. And of course, as we know, one of the things that always stood out to me about Bolton was how absolutely devastatingly evil this man was when it came to whistleblowers, people that were telling the truth about the war crimes, crimes against humanity of the U.S. government. And so when it comes to breaking federal law, here's what Mr. Bolton had to say about some very important key people.
That I agree with you. To be fair, with all due respect, one doesn't have to be brilliant to attempt a coup.
I disagree with that. As somebody who has helped plan coup d'etat, not here, but other places.
So right off the bat, you have him admitting that he likes to participate in regime change illegal wars, so that he actually is a war criminal. I don't know if Bolton is wanted in The Hague, but he certainly should be. And this is a prime example of just that. Freely admitting that this guy just, well, if anybody knows a thing or two about coup d'etat, I've participated in a few of those. Not on American soil. Wink, wink. My God, talk about giving away the game. Giving away the game. Yeah, I've done some coup d'etat. Yeah, we droned some folks. That's what it sounds like to me. And that's what it should sound like to everybody else. Just flippantly admitting that I'm a war criminal and that I should be hung in the town square. I don't even want to put people like him in prison. I want him to be hung. Like, that's what should, or firing squad, either one. They both work for me. How does it work for you guys?
It takes a lot of work, and that's not what he did. It was just stumbling around from one idea to another. Ultimately, he did unleash the rioters at the Capitol. As to that, there's no doubt.
Then he has committed very serious crimes. This is a devastating indictment. I speak here as an alumnus of the Justice Department myself, because not only is it powerful, it's very narrowly tailored. They didn't throw everything up against the wall to see what would stick. This really is a rifle shot, and I think it should be the end of Donald Trump's political career.
He gets to the United States, he'll get due process here, and I hope he gets at least 176 years in jail for what
he hopes that Julian Assange dies in prison. Now, in reality, he probably would like to have just heard Assange, having an unfortunate accident and being killed. But when you think about the greatest truth tellers of the 21st century, the people that have helped expose the true depths of depravity within our government, Julian Assange is a hero the world over. He's a hero to me. The fact that Jen and I have had the opportunity to do work with him and his family is something that, in terms of things that I've had the privilege of experiencing in this racket we call politics, that is something that I am as proud of as anything that I've ever done. And when you hear Bolton talking about Julian in that capacity, well, that just goes to show you what side of justice somebody like Bolton is truly on.
he did.
I'm not bothered by the death penalty in this country, and I think crimes like espionage that harm the security and the safety of innocent American civilians deserves the strictest punishment.
View is that Snowden committed treason. He ought to be convicted of that, and then he ought to swing from a tall oak tree.
Snowden should swing from an oak tree. I mean, again, we're all giving wonderful ideas, reminding people of what should happen to John Bolton. We're going to get to him in what he has been found guilty of in a minute. But now we come to Chelsea Manning. And of course, Chelsea Manning graced us with her presence on the podcast a couple of times. And I remember, of all the people that we've ever had on, that's probably somebody that Jen was as surprised to see as probably anybody we've ever had. And We are extremely thankful and always will be for her being here and for doing what she did for the betterment of our country. She is a patriot, unlike Bolton.
Well, he should be prosecuted, and if he's found guilty, he should be punished to the fullest extent possible.
And what is that?
Death.
You think he should be killed?
Yes.
So death for Chelsea Manning. And now we come to the moment that many of us for many years have been waiting for. I didn't know how it was going to happen. And I frankly don't care that it is Trump that is making it happen, because I'm a really vindictive person and I really hate scumbags like John Bolton. The fact of the matter is, it is happening. And here is what's happening.
This morning, just moments ago, John Robert Bolton II pled guilty in federal court to the unlawful retention of national defense information. According to the terms of the plea agreement, Mr. Bolton faces a maximum sentence of up to 5 years in prison, followed by a term of up to 3 years of supervised release. He will also pay a fine of $2.25 million and will forfeit his pension under the HIS Act.
Probably as much as anything, in terms of what will truly be a very slow death for this very deadly human being, is the fact that he is truly going to be a broke man, a broken man, until he dies. So in some ways, this is better justice than just giving him the noose. No one is coming to save him. No one is giving him a pardon. And no one is giving him an income stream ever again. He is going to die like a low-down, dirty animal. I'm not going to say dog because all dogs are precious, but let's just assume that he is somebody who is completely irredeemable. And he's not redeemable. So he's going to experience, for however much longer he's alive, a very painful existence, as he should have. Yeah, he's going to lose it all. He's already got a massive amount of money that he now needs to pay back. I don't remember the full extent of what trouble his wife and daughter are in, but they're in a lot of trouble themselves. Listen, almost half his net worth financially, he's going to lose it. And who knows how much of that is tied up, his total net worth is tied up in, let's say, the home that he currently owns in DC. I mean, you never know. So I don't want to make any presumptions, but it would seem to me that he really is on his way out in so many ways.
As National Security Advisor to the President of the United States, Mr. Bolton had access to and was responsible for safeguarding the most sensitive national defense information, including classified material. Mr. Bolton knew how to handle classified information, where it should be stored, how it should be stored, and with whom he could share that information. He also knew the damage to national security that could be caused by mishandling that sensitive information. Nevertheless, as Mr. Bolton just admitted, he put our national security at grave risk in violation of the law. Our system of classified information is designed to protect sensitive information that would jeopardize national security if mishandled. And the national defense information at issue in this case was classified at the highest classification levels.
That's the other thing. This is a person who has been in positions of authority at the highest levels of our government for decades. This is a person who truly knows some really dark secrets. And he uses that and has been using that for his career. He's always been the mouthpiece for the Heritage Foundation, for the State of Israel. He has been having wet dreams for many years about celebrating in Tehran. I think some of us probably remember that lovely speech that he gave. I believe it was at CPAC. This is who he is. And not too many of them ever end up getting comeuppance. But again, he got in Trump's crosshairs. And one thing about Trump, he plays for keeps.
The document in count 12, for example, revealed intelligence about an adversary's plans for an attack conducted against U.S. forces in another country. It contained human intelligence using sensitive sources and methods, and it discussed a covert action program. As Mr. Bolton admitted, he shared more than 1,000 pages of information about his day-to-day activities as the National Security Advisor, including information related to the national defense, with two individuals who neither had the security clearances nor the need to know that information.
So he has been convicted and will go to prison for 5 years, $2.5 million fine, pension taken away. Lord knows what else might be coming. It couldn't happen to a better person. It couldn't happen to a more deserving person. But I want to remind you people that when it comes to the two-party duopoly, the red versus blue nonsense that we deal with on a regular basis, it doesn't end even with war criminals like John Bolton. And as you know, we rarely play clips from the three stooges that are MSDNC, CNN, and Fox News. However, this is a very telling clip from earlier this year regarding the indictment of John Bolton on MSNBC. You probably won't be too surprised with just how treacherous the commentary is here.
Of anybody I worked with in the administration, he's the most buttoned-up guy I've ever worked with in government, period. And, you know, long time. So if anybody knows about classified documents, it's him. And if there's anybody that knows that Trump's after him, it's him. Right? So the notion that this guy who knows more about foreign policy than anybody in the U.S. government, arguably, and certainly more than Donald Trump, would be hiding or keeping known classified documents is such a stretch. And it's obvious that Trump was going after him. And so I just find it hard to believe that there was anything in his possession that warrants a criminal charge for sure. I mean, there may have been, he had boxes of stuff for so many years. I mean, maybe there was something going back to the Bush administration but you know, for him to, it's just a huge stretch for me to think that this guy was withholding classified documents.
So if I'm,
it's amazing. If they're on one side that they're trying to defend, or if it's anything against Trump, and I mean anything, they will find a way to defend somebody as anti-American, as criminal-minded, and as evil as John Bolton. It doesn't matter. There is no line. Again, this is all about divide and conquer, period.
one of Trump's other targets, right? Let's say I am California Senator Adam Schiff. Am I worried right now?
No. No. These people are not ever going to jail. They're not going to be found guilty of anything.
Why do you think that? We're living in unprecedented times.
Right,
Well,
but Donald Trump
has to have a jury, and Trump can't pick
exactly
the jury.
right. Exactly right. I mean, look, I've waited 20 years to see John Bolton get in trouble for lies about Iraq. He's finally getting in trouble for telling the truth about Trump. But Donald Trump doesn't care about actually winning a court case. He knows he won't. He knows he's not going to win. He wants to bankrupt his foes.
Yeah.
He wants to tie them up in court for years with expensive, costly legal fees that mean nothing to him. They do this every.
Okay. Now, John Fugelsang is a friend of the show, and obviously, we do not see eye to eye in terms of politics in many respects. You know, he is an ardent defender of the Democratic Party. And of course, here, he's dead wrong John Bolton was convicted, and it wasn't because Trump set out to get him and that he is found guilty for telling the truth about Trump. No, he was found guilty because he is a criminal, and Trump decided that he was not going to be protected anymore. And that's it. There's a lot of people out there who are hardened criminals, maybe not to the level of John Bolton, but they are criminals nonetheless. And as a result, everyone is always protecting each other until they're no longer protected. And this is one of the things you have to look out for in this particular administration as we go forward. Remember, we are only a year and a half in. Still got 2.5 more years of this. There's a lot more that could happen and probably will. So to say that there are people that will get thrown under the bus is an understatement. So John is wrong about this. And unfortunately, his bias against Trump doesn't allow him to supersede what is a much bigger problem, which is the broken system, which is a bigger problem than Trump.
Court for years with expensive, costly legal fees that mean nothing to him.
They do this every single time. Anytime Trump is accused of really anything, they throw it back on the other party and say they're doing the same thing too, and they're doing it worse. Trump's innocent, and the Democrats are the ones guilty of this. They're accusing Biden of having weaponized the government, even though that's not what happened over the last 4 years. But that's exactly what they're doing, and they're throwing it back in their face with the power now of the federal government.
Well, this cheeky fellow, Mr. Darcy, who is as up the ass of the Democratic establishment as you could possibly get, is somebody who unequivocally is on board with everything that is Team Blue. To suggest that the Biden administration did not weaponize the Justice Department when they were in office, you're kidding, right? They gave blanket pardons to the entire Biden family going back decades. Gave a blanket pardon to Fauci going back decades. There's plenty others we could talk about. But to suggest that there wasn't a weaponization of the Biden Justice Department is, again, playing party politics, which is something that I think most people are just tired of. As we should be. We should all be tired of this. And in the end, John Bolton, who is one of the most evil, sinister scumbags I have ever seen. When I think about when I was watching, really starting to come of age in the political arena in my early 20s, and I remember how I felt about the war in Iraq. Like, I knew from jump that it was all bullshit. The same with Afghanistan, but obviously Iraq was on a completely different level. To hear him go on all different media outlets, obviously he was a really big fixture on Fox News back in the day. But the way he was so visceral and angry and adamant about we need to go to war, and this is a guy who did not fight in war. I believe he served, but he was never in combat. And anybody in the chat want to correct me on that one, just to be sure. But even still, you know, he definitely does look like a walrus, that's for sure. And now the walrus is going to have some fun in prison. Hopefully he doesn't go to a country club prison. I mean, you never know. I wouldn't hold out as far as that's concerned. You know, will he actually have to pay a price for what he's done? I don't know. But he should. He should have to go to like a regular prison and have to suffer there like any other hardened criminal. And one can only hope, because this is one of the lasting stories of John Bolton. The West may now have no option but to attack Iran. And this is in December of 23. This is during the Biden administration. Tehran will only accept it has miscalculated if it faces significant costs for its recent acts of aggression. This is all he's ever known. This is all he's ever known. To basically be the face, the true face of blood in the streets. That's all he's ever known. And that's all that could be attributed to a lot of different things. Of course, it could be financial. That is always a big reason why these guys end up doing the things that they do. But in his case, he is somebody who lusts after war. He always has. And the fact that he has been at it for so many decades, and there's never any comeuppance. Again, the only reason this is happening to him is because he threw Trump under the bus. He threw Trump under the bus for his career because he was so sure that Trump was dead and buried that he would never come back and get him, but he did. And I am sure that there are many reasons why. You know, when you think about the difference right now between somebody like John Bolton and Pete Hegseth, and where does the real difference lie between the two? The real difference is that Bolton is a very intelligent individual, extremely intelligent. Hegseth is not. The smarter the people who pull the levers of power that are evil are often the ones who get the most done, which is why Bolton has been very successful at what he's done to decimate the entire world. Hegseth doesn't know how to do that. He acts like he knows anything. He knows less than nothing. And so as a result, that's why so many of the attempted military operations have been complete failures with somebody like Hegseth having any level of authority. But when you're talking about somebody like Bolton, who was revered, sadly enough, in both political party hierarchies, he knows how to get shit done. And so when they decided that they were finally going after Iran, trust me when I tell you, he was thrilled. In fact, I think he may have even celebrated Trump when he did that. I know you don't want to think that Bolton is smart, but I am telling you, he's smart in a maybe not necessarily a book smart kind of way, but he is an exceptionally effective ghoul swamp creature, if you will, because he's done it forever. So that's it. John Bolton is finally going where he deserves. He's not probably going to get all of what he deserves. I know we certainly hope that he does. And thank you for that, Jane. Bolton served in the National Guard and Reserve. He also supported the Vietnam War, even though he never went. Of course, of course, of course. So he started young, although I'm not sure he ever was. He's probably always been an old bastard and, you know, probably lives off the blood of innocent children. That's how he's been able to stay alive. But if there's any justice in the world, he will be dead and buried in the not too distant future. And with that being said, our lovely gal has finally arrived, fashionably late, but acceptable. It's within a 10-minute time frame, which is acceptable. It is also a Saturday night. So, you know, Mel Witte is somebody who, when it comes to the Charlie Kirk story, even though I do my fair share of research, she is as good as anybody that I know in this political media sphere, because she happens to be friendly with Candace Owens, who we all think very highly of when it comes to these key issues. And so without further ado, let's kick it off. Mel, welcome back to Revolutionary Change.
Hi guys, how are y'all doing?
Good to see
Sorry
you.
I'm so late.
No.
I'm looking a little frazzled.
Well, no, listen, I think Jen, obviously, it's a solo night for me on Saturdays, but I know Jen would absolutely adore the earrings that you're wearing right now. I think they're lovely as well. So
thank you. Yes.
Got to rock the
always try to show solidarity when we can. And it's been a little while since I wore my press sweatshirt. I realized because it's hot, it's like 90 something degrees every day, you know, and I have shorts on. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna wear it because I love wearing all of my Wear the Peace gear. If you guys have never shopped there, I don't have any relationship with them. I just really love their stuff. And of course, they have just, the most admirable cause that there is right now. And so you should check it out. And you just get really good gear. Like you get really good quality, high quality clothing from them too. So,
well, anything that's helping the cause to me is always worth supporting
absolutely.
and always worth mentioning. So if anybody wants to put that in the description, or
everybody's seeing the press shirt, but it's to honor.
Well, press has been under attack. I mean, listen, the thing about this whole Charlie Kirk saga is that this truly has been a citizen's agenda. This is not the agenda of the Justice Department. It is not the agenda of corporate media. This is the agenda not even of independent media. And as we have seen, how many of these so-called independent media outlets have just caved completely on this case. Charlie was, like I said, Charlie was the biggest one of them all when things were really rolling for the conservative movement that wasn't part of the older demographic. And so when you think about how Turning Point USA, whether you want to single out Erica or Andrew Colvett or Blake Neff or any of them, how they have completely desecrated his name in death in the worst ways possible. And then you think about the paid propagandists on behalf of the state of Israel. Benny Johnson, Michael Knowles, Little Ben come to the forefront. And then you think about what we're doing, what we're trying to do. Because to me, the biggest reason to never give up and never let up on this story with Charlie Kirk is that I 1000% believe that Israel was behind his assassination. And now you're seeing really solid, concrete evidence that what we surmised was what actually went down here is actually what did in fact go down. We always surmised that it was an exploding microphone, an exploding lapel. And now it appears that that is the case.
Right. Yeah. So you and I are on the exact same page there. I always tell people, I knew in 5 minutes. I knew the second that it happened. I knew who it was. I didn't doubt it for a second. I have never doubted it, not for one freaking second ever since, because cui bono, right? And there were certain things that Charlie was doing. I was watching. Again, Charlie followed me on X. I had known since the spring that he was at least, I know people push back on me all the time on this, that he was at least very, very much aware about Palestinian suffering. He was very sensitive to Palestinian Christian suffering, but also, so he would like my posts, right? Never my anti-Israel posts, obviously, but he would see them. He would see posts when I would just talk about children, and children who had been harmed. I made a couple posts about children who had lost limbs and whatnot. So I knew he was seeing this stuff, and I knew it was affecting him. There's a lot of conservatives that you wouldn't necessarily know, or you wouldn't necessarily think, who follow me. They see my stuff and they are touched by it, right? So, but for a variety of reasons, they don't, and because they are cowards, they are acting cowardly. And I will say,
what do you attribute that to?
Well, in Charlie's case, he thought they were gonna kill him, and it turns out he was right. So I was actually, after he was murdered, I did have a lot of guilt because I wrote him really hard. I would just call him out constantly. I was so angry because I'm like, I know you're seeing this stuff. I know that you are sympathetic to it. Why are you still carrying their water? And turns out it's because he was freaking scared. And yeah. And they killed him. So, he had every reason to be scared. And he had voiced these concerns to others. Harrison Smith had the very famous tweet about Charlie Kirk thinks Israel's going to kill him. And others, he had expressed this to others and whatnot. So anyways, when it happened, I knew. So I was very skeptical of the official narrative from the get-go, right? And I genuinely thought they were going to serve us something a little better than what they did. We get this really preposterous story when you break it down. We get this story about this 22-year-old kid who has no history of even political activism. It might have even been a little bit more believable if we had some Reddit rants, right? If we had some crazy Tumblr views, if we had something to go off of other than supposedly he told a member of his family that Charlie Kirk was full of hate, right? Like that's all we've got. That's literally all that we've ever heard from anybody, essentially, that he has that's the most out there view that he was supposedly held, right? And I'm not saying, of course, Tyler Robinson obviously was involved. I have a theory. My theory is that actually the target was Lance Twiggs, and that somehow, Lance Twiggs was supposed to be the one that came up to Provo, but somehow it was Tyler instead, probably. So I don't know. I don't know everything.
My theory about Tyler Robinson is that he was part of a CIA training facility at this university. I think he was, very similar to, kind of like the Oswald situation where he was part of the CIA and it basically became the patsy. You can't just pull some random person off the street and put him in the middle of this. You put somebody in there who understands, who they make it very clear to. You say one word and it's your parents, it's your siblings, it's your friends. They're all gone and they'll just disappear. And that's how it goes.
So a lot of people don't, so you are perhaps familiar with the Turkey Tom messages. Did you ever read those? Those came to, there's a streamer called Turkey Tom. I had never heard of him before this. Never seen anything from him since, but apparently he's popular with the young folk. And he gets this message from this person who says that he's a friend of Tyler and Lance's, and it was a big thing in October of last year, and this is supposed to give us like more insight into their lives. It's supposed to be with a close friend and whatnot. Well, I go through it a couple times. I initially had the same instinct that everybody else had, which was, this is a Fed writing this is BS, it's total crap. I just dismissed it, right? Then I got brought back to it on something else, and I realized actually this is actually written from the point of view of a third roommate. So there's a third roommate that, for reasons I don't actually understand, because this person wasn't living according to their own testimony in these Turkey Tom texts, this person wasn't living with them. So I don't understand why he couldn't have just, because that certainly would have given more credibility to him. Okay. But he is, so I'm very suspicious about this third roommate, who this person is, because this person is in this Discord chat, and it turns out that in this same Discord chat, and there's only like 5 people in this chat, so there's a pretty strong possibility. One of the 3 people we don't know, because Lance, Tyler, the third roommate, and the 2 others we don't know. So one of either the third roommate or the 2 others was actually present at University of Nevada, Las Vegas in December of 2023, when there was this very bizarre school shooting there. This guy comes from Pennsylvania. He comes out to UNLV. He applies for a job. It doesn't, but he's a witness to this shooting. Again, so it's like, what are the odds? What are the odds that we've got somebody who's witness to a school shooting, and then, he's living with a guy who ends up committing the, most infamous political assassination since Bobby Kennedy, I think the odds are actually kind of low on that, right? This is weird. All of these things. Again, Candace has made a big deal about this. Why the proximity to school shooters with the people around TPUSA is so low, right? Like, what the hell is going on? So I think that's an interesting angle. I haven't explored it fully. It was a couple weeks ago that I stumbled across that again, and I reread it. I read it very, very, very carefully this time. And there was something at the very end that tipped off. I'm like, okay, this person's actually speaking as if they had lived with them, because that makes more sense. I went back and I kind of plugged in with my own thought of what might be, and it's like, okay, yeah, this was a third roommate. So again, now we've got, and I think it's interesting that this has never been mentioned, that there was a person living with them. And if you go back and you really read through these Turkey Tom messages, what becomes very clear is that the mentally ill person that lived in that house was Lance Twiggs. He was brilliant. He was some kind of student. He was he was like one of these, ultra bright students. We know that they put these kids on, radars and stuff like that. But the whole focus of this entire thread is all about Lance Twiggs's mental illness. And then at the very end, the guy's like, so I guess because Tyler was in the house with him all by himself there for a few weeks, I guess he just went crazy. It's like, that's actually not how that works. That's,
No.
you know, people don't just wake up and they're like, oh, you know what? My boyfriend drove me crazy. I'm going to go commit, you know, first-degree murder.
Well, you know, usually a lot of these stories end up coming to the forefront when they are told, they're like prepared years in advance. And I think what happened with Charlie is that he turned basically at the 11 o'clock hour, but they understood the magnitude that his platform creates. Like, there was no war with Iran if Charlie was able to live. So he would have basically spun the wheels with the entire conservative movement, which he has done. And even in death, he is somebody who people are still looking to as a voice. And that's why when you think about what he told that kind of set this off, it isn't just about not going to war with Iran. It's also this.
I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question.
He's right. It is a non-conspiracy question, and it's true. And the reason we know it's true is because of this that just dropped the other day.
שמפציץ את כל קו הרצועה עם ארטילריה, דופק להם מכה על מנת שיהיה להם בעיה. ממש להם על זה. כתבתי את זה לאבי. הם לא מעלים מזכרים, את רוצה שנראה? לא, על עזה. פרק את הכל. עם החיילים שחטפו להם.
No, on Gaza, break it all apart, along with the soldiers who got abducted. So that is what is known as the Hannibal Directive. Go in there, carpet bomb the shit out of them, say that it was all Hamas, and then we have our talking points that we can use to facilitate this endless war. And this is another thing that I think people forget at the time. The Netanyahu government's political position, economic position around, not just in Israel, but around the world, was fading fast. Like, a lot of people really don't want to deal with them. They see them as an enemy. And so as a result, the whole idea of creating a false flag is not far-fetched when you're completely psychotic. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. I think that there's a lot of smoke here. And when somebody with the platform the size of Charlie Kirk is saying, yeah, I think there was a stand down order of some kind on October 7th. Well, now you have video footage that, yes, this is exactly what they were doing.
Right. We've known since October 7th that this is exactly what they did, because none of it ever made any sense, you know. And the thing is that people need to, very often, and what we see is this analyzation that happens online, especially with people who are like super online, right? And so they'll just analyze the absolute crap out of it. And it's like, no, actually, what Charlie articulated was very simple. You have a very tiny country that you can get almost anywhere to and from within 45 minutes, and that's in a commercial helicopter. That's not in an, like, you know, that's not an attack Apache. Yeah. This is, again, if you know anything about the placement of IDF bases all around, what's going on. So it's, yes, we do know that Hamas, you know, and to their credit, Hamas planned this very well, right? Like, so I'm not trying to take away, you know, because a lot of people get upset and they're like, and I do understand this, is like, people treat Israel like it's this like almost like godlike thing that can never be defeated, you can never get one up on them. If you do, it's because they let you. No, but there was it does seem, well, it doesn't seem, we know that perhaps things went down on their own. Definitely Hamas actually did execute a very brilliant counterattack, again, to attacks that they had been facing for 80 years. So we're not even going to go there, but they did have a very brilliant counterattack. But then it's like the people in the Israeli government immediately, they seized upon it and they saw this as a way to, this really did solve a lot of problems that they had. It allowed them to go into an emergency a state of emergency, which I believe they are still in to this day, which allows them to, I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that they still are, which allows them to, you know, the executive branch of the government to function in a way that it wouldn't necessarily be able to. They don't have to answer for certain things. Netanyahu hasn't had to really show up and face his trial the way he has. He gets, every time he has to go, it gets deferred, it gets continued and whatnot. So unfortunately, that's what happened. You know, Hamas attacked, and for reasons, you know, we all understand, but it actually served the interests of this Israeli government, especially this really, really psychotic far-right Likud government, which was elected in late 2022.
Exactly. And this is why the conclusion of this clip here is going to show the most bloodthirsty, the Himmler, if you will, of the Likud party, of the Netanyahu government. And of course, that's Ben Gvir.
אלו הרגעים הראשונים בחמ"ל המשטרה.
איפה? באיזה יישוב?
עוד לפני שהשר הממונה יגיע. בטרם יוחלט מה לשידור ומה לצנזור.
אז רגע, אתה מצלם שם? אני נותן לך אישור, אתה צלם את זה. תוציא את זה בבקשה.
I cannot let you film me while I'm committing war crimes and admitting that we knew about October 7th before it happened. And you see, that's what it is. To me, it's just like 9/11. All evidence says that not only was 9/11 perpetrated by Israel in conjunction with our government to facilitate the endless war machine, but everything had been laid in advance. There were so many obvious examples of that. Bin Laden determined to attack within the U.S., completely ignored. I have no doubt that when you really get to the bottom of exactly what went down prior to October 7th, there was probably ample intelligence that said Hamas determined to attack on this day at this location.
Well, they had already thwarted an attack at Passover, right? So the original attack was supposed to happen in 2023 at Passover, and something happened that stalled Hamas on that. And but they had a full plan, and I have it in my notes. I actually have a thread that I had prepared, and you know, one of those things you just kind of get. But this has been there's some really kind of, you know, fascinating, and they are sad. You know, I mean, when somebody loses their child, like, it's just sad to me. I know a lot of people don't have a lot of sympathy for IDF soldiers or whatnot, but this girl was 19 years old, or no, excuse me, she was 22 years old, and she called her dad, and she leaves him messages. She actually left him voice messages telling him that she had warned her superiors about this attack. She had seen the plans for it. She knew that their black ops knew about this, and they actually had a contingency plan for this attack. And what we were told is that they had dismissed it and said, no, this is way too ambitious for Hamas. They'll never pull this off. And turns out that the attack that they pulled off was almost it was like a blueprint. It was like perfectly matched. So they had the blueprint, and they dismissed it. But did they really dismiss it, or did somebody get a hold of it and say, actually, because again, another thing that people always have to remember is that the people that are on the Gaza border, those are the quote unquote left wingers, right? They are, even though we know, you know, liberal Zionists and whatnot are scratch a liberal Zionist and, you know, Ben Gvir bleeds. But they were technically Netanyahu's rivals. These are the people that are going into Tel Aviv every weekend, and they're protesting. And you know, prior to October 7th, they were literally practically on the verge of a civil war in Israel over Netanyahu's corruption. And so, you know, do I think that they saw this and they're like, well, it's, you know, it's all those little lefties down at the border, so meh. And then you throw in a very bizarre venue transfer of the Nova Music Festival, which was actually not supposed to be held there. It was transferred. You know, most people don't know this, but the Nova Music Festival was supposed to be in the Negev desert. Yeah. Something like 15 to 20 miles away from the border, and it got canceled, and it gets moved to where it's like 3 kilometers. It's like 1.5 miles from the border. It's literally, they're all sitting ducks. They're all high as kites out there in the middle of the night. You know, I have a lot of questions about October 7th. We're told that Hamas fired 5,000 rockets. in 30 minutes. You watch all of those videos out of the Nova Music Festival, you don't hear any rockets,
I
okay?
don't believe it.
We're told that that overloaded the Patriot, the Iron Dome, and that's why the Iron Dome went down. But I'm watching all these early videos. I'm hearing a handful of them, but they're never going off like they say that they were. So how the hell did the Iron Dome go down like that?
Which is why I think that this, again, it brings everything full circle, that whether it's kind of like, were there 19 hijackers from Saudi Arabia on 9/11? Maybe. But whatever we were told that actually went down is nothing close to what actually was. And that is the same thing about October 7th. Whatever we were told it went down. Is it possible? And I mean this in the most enduring way possible. Were the Hamas fighters useful idiots under the circumstances? Maybe. Maybe they walked right into a trap. They knew they were going to be able to tee off on some people, and they probably took out a few hundred. But at the end of the day, this was a grand setup of the highest order. This was always the intention, because now we're seeing, again, if this was truly just about Gaza, that would be one thing. But now you're seeing what's going on in southern Lebanon. You see what's going on in Albania. You see what's going on in Iran. And the more we observe the fact that this is truly, unequivocally about the Greater Israel Project, it always has been. The Greater Israel Project was supposed to commence with the sinking of the USS Liberty in 1967, which did not happen. And obviously, they were not able to fully push forward this initiative until the first things really started with the first Intifada in 1987. And then many other things have transpired as a result. Who knows what would have happened in 1995? If the assassination did not take place? Maybe there could have been some type of a two-state solution then. Who knows? But where we are now. No, please.
So, fun fact for those who don't know, the 1995 CPAC is actually where the Christian Zionist lobby really formed. Most people don't know this. Yes, you've had Christian Zionists, and it really does kick off after 67, but there was actually an approach by the Jewish lobby, the Israeli Jewish lobby, which had always typically been aligned with left-wing causes, but they could sense this shrinking, and they had gotten the support of the right wing because of the anti-communist movement, right? But when the wall fell, that kind of went away. So CPAC is actually where the Israel lobby for the first time approaches the right, in the Christian right, and tries to form an alliance with them. And this is where we see, and it's really after 95, but really after 2001, but 95 is where it starts, where you start to see these kind of, this elevation and much less mockery of the Zionist movement, Christian Zionist movement. And so it's very interesting that it coincides, of course, with the assassination, in the absolute, destruction of the Oslo Accords. So,
Speaking of assassination, as we said, and I am of the mind that it was always some type of an explosive device. There were way too many angles that I saw of the assassination. And again, this is the whole thing about it being a citizen's effort, citizen's arrest, citizen's justice. Whatever this is, it was amateur video that showed what really happened to Charlie. It was amateur video that showed George Zinn. It was amateur video that showed somebody crawling along the rooftop. It was amateur video that captured the complete cover-up of the crime scene.
So I have to correct you.
Correct
on something. The first three videos that we got out of that, out of the event that day, first one is Farah. It's taken from the balcony, and it's the shot that everyone thought he shot in the chest. Right. So second one is what I call that the one on the balcony. Second one is what I call the waterfall video, which is the one where it's close and we see the neck. I call that the waterfall video. Third one is the one that we get where the guy's running across the roof, and that's out of the Hall of Flags. All three of those were taken by someone on the assassination team. Okay. These people were planted throughout the crowd, and they were planted in such a way to paint a very, very particular picture for us, right? Number one, that first video, the one that went mega viral because it had no blood, right? So this was uploaded onto X by an account called, it's called UNN Headlines, right? This was a 40,000 follower account on X that had been around for less than a year. And I wanted to know where these videos came from, who had them, right? This account actually has all three of the videos. It's the first one to upload all of them, and they allow all of them to be downloaded. That's a very, very important part of the plan, because when you allow a video to be downloaded, everyone takes it and then they spread it, and it's very hard to figure out who the hell was the first person to download this? Where did you get this from, right? So all of those people, but those three videos painted this very, very particular picture for us. And I don't know how they've done it, but they've been able to keep most of the other videos out of, there were 3,000 students and I'm willing to, in that amphitheater, and I'm willing to bet that 2,800 of them at least had their phones out recording at that exact time. And yet we have maybe 12, maybe 15 videos out of all of the videos that happened, right? So, but those three were the most important because they painted the picture in people's minds. We had a shot to the chest. Oh, nope. I guess it went to the neck. And then we saw the guy running from the rooftop, and that painted, that's everything, right? And so, sorry, I didn't,
No, not at all. I think what it did was they, again, this is the whole thing about, they had to kind of scramble because, we remember what happened at I guess it was the Turning Point Summerfest or whatever the event was called. I mean, look, that conversation that Charlie brokered between Dave Smith and the Timu. Josh Hammer. Yeah, I call him Timu Ben Shapiro. That was an example of Dave Smith destroyed Hammer so badly. And then it was shortly thereafter that he got dragged to the Hamptons, and like everything that just kind of followed from that.
Real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know this. Right before the weekend at the Hamptons, there was actually a Christian Zionist meeting with Yair Netanyahu as the guest speaker held at the White House, hosted by the Heritage Foundation. It was literally an emergency meeting called to address rising anti-Semitism on the right. Do you know what organization was not invited to this July 31st meeting?
Gee, who?
TPUSA, the largest conservative right-wing organization that exists, and they don't invite them?
But you can bet your bottom dollar they would be invited today.
You bet they are. Yep.
So here is the very specifically detailed and analyzed assassination. You judge for yourself. I mean, I know what I see.
Yeah.
The other thing you have to remember is that this had to be done in public, because the reason why these public executions have to happen is because it's supposed to send a direct signal to everyone else to understand that, just so you know, in case you were thinking about getting out of line, now you understand why this is done the way that it's done. We want you to understand that you will either walk the line or you will be removed, just like Charlie was. Exactly. We could remove Charlie. We can remove anybody.
Yeah, that is the message. And it is maddening for me when people play stupid on that. Well, why wouldn't they just, they could take him out anywhere. It's like, because it's not about killing Charlie. It's about sending a message to everyone. Okay. It is about killing Charlie because TPUSA is dead now. Right. So
it's dying. It'll be dead.
It's a freaking, it's a skeleton. But so one thing that's very important. So the left has typically been pretty good at organizing, as opposed to the right as far as grassroots go, right? And so, the right, you saw the Tea Party, but that immediately got co-opted by billionaires and just got, squashed and whatnot. But so what Charlie had built was more, it's the only thing like it on the right, period, that exists. And it is it has the ability to be a grassroots network, right? Because it's on all the college campuses. It has very appealing branding and messaging. Something else you said, when they got rid of Charlie Kirk, not only do we get the Iran war, but had they not gotten rid of Charlie Kirk, Thomas Massey would probably, he would still be, he definitely wouldn't be, he would be the Republican nominee for Kentucky's 4th district. Marjorie Taylor Greene would probably still be in Congress. And they cannot, and when I say they, I mean the Israeli lobby in the US, the Zionist lobby in the US, they cannot allow dissent like that to grow on the right. They allow it a little bit on the left. And now we see, thank heavens, it's breaking through. Like it is you've got something like 29. We'll see. I'm always hesitant, on, there's a handful, there's about 5 on the left that I think are actually like solid, like really good, but still not taking money. That's a big step. Like that's going to become probably by 2028, if not definitely by 2030, it will be 100% toxic in the Democrat Party to take money from AIPAC or the Israeli lobby, period. It's already becoming very problematic.
Well, it's going to be very interesting, and we're going to play Baron Coleman's clip in a second. I think it is very telling that the person who has clearly started to pivot is Vance, because I think he understands that he doesn't really have a choice. He has to distinguish himself from Rubio, because Rubio is clearly going to be the choice of the pro-Israel cause. So in that regard, now his biggest benefactor, one of the biggest psychopaths on the earth, who Jen and I are convinced is a lizard person, Peter Thiel, he's already relocating to Argentina. Lord knows what that's all about, but it's a story for another day. Point is, things are changing, and I think in some respects, they're changing even quicker than I think we anticipated. And when you have fellow sleuths, in this case, like Baron Coleman, has done a great job. Here's what he had to say regarding the latest revelations with the exploding microphone.
Just a nonsensical position, guys. It doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. Rationally, it doesn't make sense. And it's vitally important to the case for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, it exposes a multi-agency cover-up that involves the FBI, the Utah State Bureau of Investigation, the sheriff in Utah County up in Orem and Provo, the sheriff in Washington County, who multiple times has gone on the record saying he did not arrive, whoever is the records custodian in Washington County who fiddled around with the tapes and wouldn't give them over to News 2. Like, you're talking about a multi-agency cover-up, potentially the prosecutors, if they try to go forward with this nonsense. That's a bad deal. So that's number 1, a multi-agency cover-up. It's a big deal. Number 2, it exposes the Fed sloppers. It shows you they're dishonest actors, that they can look at the totality of the body of the evidence and say, yeah, but the only interpretation that supports my position is that Tyler Robinson, 20 hours after leaving his parents, 20 hours after being without a cell phone, 20 hours after not knowing what his parents were doing, 20 hours after not knowing if his parents got in touch with an attorney, 20 hours later is still thinking, well, I think my parents are trying to get in touch with them, but somehow I've divined. In the jail, we have these, these steel toilets, right? Steel toilets just out in the middle of the room. I use it like a crystal ball. I know my parents haven't gotten in touch with Doug Terry yet. I've been looking into the toilet water. I was in there dropping tea leaves into the toilet water and reading the tea leaves. I know for a fact they have not gotten in touch with Doug Terry yet. But Tyler, you haven't talked to them in 20 hours. You haven't talked to them all day Friday. Maybe Doug Terry's sitting out in the waiting room. Well, I looked at the toilet. I saw the floater in there, and I saw the way it was spinning, and that told me that Doug Terry had not yet been contacted, and his office was closed for the night. He's probably one of those lawyers that does the rare Saturday morning office openings, I guess. I don't know. It's a Fed slop problem. And this is a huge part of this case is you have lying sacks of bull butter on the other side. I don't want to name them by name, but you know who they all are.
Cash Patel.
And they sit on the other side and they come through on their little white knights, on their little midget horses, and they do everything they can to support the Fed slop narrative because they know deep down the Fed slop narrative is falling apart.
I mean, how much more obvious could it be?
Right. So interestingly enough, I actually clipped from the biggest Fed slopper of them all is a guy named Gary Melton. He's a former Green Beret, or he is a Green Beret. He's retired, I guess. And, he's kind of taking the charge, taking the lead. And poor Gary, I think he's kind of dumb. I'm not going to be honest. I'm not going to lie. I do think that he is a little dumb. I think he's definitely out of his element. He's very much.
You're out of your element, Donnie.
Gary.
No, it's a joke from Big Lebowski.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie. Yeah, he's very.
Well, a lot of people think I look like Buscemi. They think I look like a few different people, but Buscemi's one that I get a lot. So
I can see that, but not really, because he always looks sickly to me, and you don't ever look sickly to me. But
if you see,
I think it's the nose.
Yeah, well, when Buscemi was young, he was a firefighter, and if you look at him from like when he was like in his 20s, early 30s, I can see the resemblance then. Now, no, and I'm very grateful that I have nice teeth. Buscemi does not. So,
but interestingly enough, actually, can I pull it up? Can I share something real quick? Because I think you guys will like this. Did you happen to see my posts from?
I've seen a lot, but this one I may not have. So, you got something you want to?
Yeah, let's show it. I'm actually going to show it from my previously prohibited account, and let's see, because I think that this really okay. So Gary is the big one. Gary Melton is his name, and let's watch what he said. So he says this 2 days after Charlie is executed. This is his idea about what is going on underneath that shirt. Okay.
I think, Colin, do I have to do anything in terms of allowing Mel to share so that she can pull it up?
Okay, can you guys see it? Can you see it?
No.
You can't. Okay, let me see. Let's see.
Colin? I think that there's, let me see if I can.
I thought I saw it below. It'll be below, but you'll have to add it, Peter.
Okay, I'll take care of it then. Okay, I see it. All right, I'll pull it up.
You see it? Okay. There you go. And then I press play.
Go for it.
Here we are right here. He's talking. This is just moments before any shots are fired. And one of the things that you couldn't tell, or I couldn't tell from the initial video, is the fact that he is clearly wearing body armor. I want you to look at this outline. Without a doubt, he is wearing body armor. Now, there's lots of different types of body armor out there. It is very easy to conceal, even under something like a t-shirt. And I think this is very, very similar to what Charlie Kirk is actually probably wearing right now. One thing about metallic body armor like this is you guys can see that if I do take a round, and especially it hits this contoured area, it can and does deflect up toward the wearer. But I want us to see what's going on in this particular instance with Charlie Kirk. So number one, we can definitely see that there is body armor there. And then I want us to move forward. I'm going to zoom in as tightly as possible, just to, again, try to keep this as clean as possible. So right here, we have the first frame in this particular video, and I don't know what frame rate this video was shot in. It was slowed down. This is the first sign of impact. I want you to notice with this shirt, we actually have the shirt. It is violently disturbed, but this shirt collar is moved all the way up to his ear. When I first saw this video, what it looked like to me is that Charlie Kirk was shot in the left side, and it looked like a direct hit into the left side of his neck. And I was also looking for an exit wound. But that doesn't explain why the shirt was moved the way that it was. As we move forward a little bit, I want you to see, folks, right here. I want you to notice that there is a spot on the shirt. And that spot on the shirt also correlates with the very top edge of this body armor. And you can also see the first appearance of an entrance wound, and that's really weird too. So when we see an entrance wound from a firearm, especially on the skin and something in an area that's soft tissue like the neck, we normally don't see such a large hole there with the entrance wound. We just don't. When skin is pierced, whether it's a projectile or anything else, you know, that stuff stretches out of the way, then it closes back in on itself. I've talked about this many times with, you know, 5.56 and even 9mm wounds, and I have seen 30 cal wounds and even larger wounds. A lot of times with these smaller caliber wounds, even up to 30 cal, it's hard to see a entrance wound at all, especially with 5.56, 9mm. A lot of times you got to stretch the skin. There's techniques that we use when we're assessing casualties where we stretch the skin apart and we're looking for those less than obvious wound channels with an entrance wound. Here we see a fairly massive wound. What is very clear to me is that we had a round that impacted the upper edge of his body armor, and then that round deflected directly upward. So now what we're dealing with is not only a deformed projectile, but it's also now moving upward, which would make the wound larger, both because of its deformation and now its angle of entry, and it's also probably fragmented as well. And that also makes a lot of sense to me because there is a side view of this footage. You know, originally I thought that round went directly into his neck and we would see some sort of exit wound on the back. I never saw that exit wound. And I think it's because basically we had that round hit, deflect directly upward and up into his cranial cavity. And I'm fairly certain that that projectile is still inside of his body. I also just watching this and his reaction and the way that he seized. And I know there was a lot.
Okay, so Gary had a lot. So number one, Gary did not for 1 second believe that a 30-06 round just hit him and then his, you know, his bones of steel just stopped it on, you know. Gary noted.
You mean it wasn't a miracle?
Gary noted all of the peculiars that everyone else did. Why did his shirt do that? Why did it ripple like that? Why did it go up by his ear, right? How the hell is there no exit wound, right? All the things. And he had lots of explanations. The big one to me is, what is this little speck right here? Okay, because in Gary's explanation, this is a fragmentation. Okay, I know he did drink milk, right? That boy was chugging milk every day of his life.
We were 90s kids too, you know.
Okay, you know we were, yeah. Okay, so Gary notes all of these things, and then Gary never mentions this again after October 4th. Never once. Doesn't talk about this on his he doesn't explain this away. Now, granted, Gary does a show all the time, and I have not watched through all of the hours, so perhaps, but Gary never felt the need to type this out. Now, he does feel the need to quote unquote debunk Candace Owens every chance he gets, but these long, drawn out posts. But for whatever reason, Gary has never addressed how he squared that circle of what happened to the ricochet.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I thought it was interesting, because now I recognize him. He was like, he was getting into a big tiff on X with Jimmy Dore, and I'm like, oh, okay, listen, Jimmy's out there. I know Jimmy personally, but at the same time, Jimmy, when he's like a dog with a bone. Like if he's on something and he's right about it, he is going to absolutely destroy you, and that is exactly what he did. And I'm looking at this guy Gary, like, oh, this guy's a fan. Like he's not saying what he should be saying if he makes a video like that. And then all of a sudden he got the phone call. So let's bring it all home with our favorite gal who just basically puts it all out there.
Are the worst people, many of them across the many events Charlie had put on stage and given a spotlight by Charlie Kirk. And they are now full-time trying to convince you that you shouldn't believe your own eyes and you should trust the feds. I know vengeance does not belong to me, but I have to tell you, it is really hard for me to curb the frustration, the anger, the disappointment, and equal parts rage that I feel toward those people. Here it is. Any questions about whether that's tempered glass? Now, you can say, you can't necessarily, we all agree it's glass, but it's definitely definitively not the car glass. But you could say, okay, let's arrive at this point. We'll say, I agree. Charlie's Rode microphone is shouted on the car, but it doesn't mean that it was rigged. Let's play devil's advocate. Doesn't mean that it was rigged. Okay. So tell us how it was broken in the car. You go be the conspiracy theorist, because that's what you're going to have to do. Your stories are going to have to get dumber and dumber. And while you're at it, could you also tell us why it is that despite telling what happened in that car many times, oh, I didn't realize my kids were on the back seat, they heard everything, Frank's praying, we're speeding, we're weaving through traffic, I'm just packing that wound. Nobody mentioned this?
You know, the thing about lies, as you know, it's an old saying, every lie begets another lie. A lie, and a lie, and a lie, and a lie. When you tell the truth, you don't have to think about it. Telling the truth is easy because it doesn't require you to be like, oh, wait, should I say this or should I not say this? And what Candace just said really brings it all home. Yeah. What dose of even more pathetic slop are you going to try to throw now that we have ironclad evidence that something went down either in that car, or now you can see that clearly there was something that exploded, and who would be doing something like that?
Here's the thing. I know people think they can't get worse, but I need everyone to remember that these are the same people who will look at pictures of Gaza and tell you that's not a genocide. That's not a genocide. They will look at it and they will say, well, that's Hamas's fault. That's the 500,000 tons of bombs that were dropped in a 126 square mile piece of land. That's Hamas's fault. That's not Israel's fault. You made us do it. So these people actually don't even have a threshold. The threshold that you and I have for lying, like at some point we got to stop, right? Like, oh, we're caught, right? They don't have it. Okay. So everyone needs to be prepared for that. Okay, because they will go down with their ship. Yes. And that's the other thing it's to normal people where like at a certain point we scream uncle, right? Like I get called out once. I don't know. I'm like, I have a fear of being like really, really wrong. So when I am wrong, and I am wrong, I'm normal. It's a human thing. I'm wrong, pretty often, like normal people. I'm like, okay, delete. Whoops. Sorry about that, guys. I was wrong not that long ago about Graham Plattner's nipples. Turns out at some point in his life, he did work out a bunch and he did have a six-pack. Okay. I don't know. I was wrong. It's okay. It's okay to be wrong. But I just owned it and I just moved on. Like it wasn't a thing, it wasn't anything that I thought about. It's a joke now. Right. But they're not like that. These people are not like that. And they will double and triple and 20 times down, and they will go down with the ship. And do not get discouraged by that. Recognize that that's what's happening and know that you are actually going over them now. We're going over them. We don't give a shit if they believe us or not, if they accept the truth or not. F these people. All right. If you want to stand by the murderers, if you want to stand by the people who will literally murder babies, put bullets in babies' heads. All right.
Oh, yeah.
That's your prerogative, but get the out of my way. All right.
Amen, sister. And this brings us to what I think is one of the more important aspects of what we do and why there are a lot of dangerous people in our midst. Tucker Carlson sat down with this supposed journalist, Alex Bruesewitz. Yes, he is part of the tribe, in case you were wondering. But he got really aggressive. I've never seen anybody get this aggressive in Tucker's house, where this took place, regarding what he did or did not say regarding Israel and Charlie Kirk's assassination.
By the way, I did see something that you were on a podcast yesterday. You said you think Israel killed Charlie Kirk.
I did not say that. Did not say that.
Okay, what was the clip then?
I said, I've never said that.
Okay.
I know a lot of people, including in the Trump administration, who think that. However, there's no proof of that.
Yeah.
What I said was two things. One, I don't know when the command came down and from whom that we have to trust everything federal law enforcement says, but I'm not obeying that. We have a moral obligation to push federal law enforcement to do the job we pay them to do, which is to investigate the crimes fully. And so, for example, if there are people who predicted Charlie's death on Twitter, I think the rest of us can expect that they've been hauled in by the FBI for questioning, and I don't think they have been. So,
I don't know about that, but I do know about what you're talking about, the Discord chats.
No, I'm specifically talking
TikTok.
I'm talking about the Twitter posts that seem to predict Charlie's death. Maybe that
I don't know if that's been investigated. I would love for that to be.
So that's number one. Number two, just because someone is shot by one person doesn't mean others weren't involved. And don't berate me into accepting that assumption, because I would never accept that. Why would I assume that?
Why is he trying to go after Tucker in this instance? Was he told to give him a hard time when he got on the podcast somehow?
No, he was told to go on there and make amends in such a way that he was still defending Israel. This is a very, very difficult needle to thread. And I think what you saw right there, actually. So Alex Bruesewitz he's an operative. He's a political operative. He owns consulting firms. He owns more than one. And this is what he does. So the right recognizes the powers that be on the right recognize that the right is pissed about Israel, and they're starting to wake up. They're very angry. You guys have no idea how many messages I get, how many new followers I get. I used to get a couple a week, maybe like one or two a week. The early October 7th days, some days would be, some weeks would be more, some weeks would be less. I get 4 or 5 messages a day from women like me, like MAGA moms, okay? Like total right wing. And so many were like, oh my God, you were so right. I've had so many people apologize to me recently. I forget sometimes that people are still waking up. So I've had, I would say, I don't know, maybe 10 messages from people saying, I gave you a hard time, or I didn't believe you about Israel, and now I see it. Oh my God, I can't. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, and you become obsessed.
Correct.
Okay?
Well, because this is the great awakening that's happening in this country, and we're going to do a brief interlude. We're going to pull this clip, and we're going to pull the one where Bruesewitz is claiming that Tucker said something when in fact this is what
Kirk
he actually
was
said.
murdered.
Yeah.
And he was not murdered for his opinions on transgenderism, obviously. He was, I believe, and most people who knew him well as I did and was friends with him as I was, believe he was most likely murdered for his evolving views on Israel. So,
What else could it be? He didn't say that Israel did the deed, but he did say that his changing view on Israel, which is a cornerstone of the evangelical rights takeover of the Republican Party and one half of the political dynamic within the United States. I mean, you'd have to be blind not to see it. And this is one of the things that a lot of people understand about the future of politics, which is why the Democratic Party hierarchy is absolutely flipping out right now. They're not flipping out over Bernie Sanders or AOC. They're flipping out over Zohran Mamdani, because he is the future and he is very effective at what he's doing. I mean, this guy has canceled city contracts between New York City and Tel Aviv. I mean, this is a guy who really has his shit together. Now, again, as I've said, as I say to you, I say to anybody else, and I'm in commercial real estate. You want to have a conversation about rent freezes? There's a conversation to be had there. But when it comes to this particular issue, he is the best of the best in the United States, which is why they're losing their mind. Now, when they say that they're going to potentially support Jeffries, it's because now they've got Jeffries' balls in a sling, because he can't do shit now unless he knows that they're going to come after him in 2 years, and they will come after him. So I think that this is a very seminal moment here where the bridging is really starting to happen amongst a lot of different working class groups that the powers that be don't know what the fuck to do now. And when Tucker Carlson is saying this, you got much bigger problems than you could possibly imagine.
Oh, you do, because the actual, and I know you guys know, I know you guys talk about it all the time. The actual divide is the socioeconomic divide, right? And if you can ever bridge that, right? you are a threat to the power. You are the threat to the powers that be, to the power structures. Every single aspect of our society is controlled by these power structures, and they absolutely depend on us. I actually have one of my craziest conspiracy theories is actually the push on the sports ball, football, baseball, whatever, is actually a reinforcement of the binary choice between team A and team B, right? But it's always the same, right? So it's whether it's even with football, the football is of course the most perfect one because it always comes down between, the American Football League and the National Football League, but it's the same effing game, right? And so it is this, and so I actually think that like we're trained from the time that we're children to think that there's only two options always, and they always scare us back. I don't know if you guys were watching Matt Walsh earlier this week, but he said when the handful of DSA candidates won, which is just so funny to me that they freaked out so bad, because literally pretty much the only difference between a lot of these guys, perhaps the DSA candidates might actually follow through with the things that they say, but it's not like
they will. That's the thing.
Right. It's not like Dan Goldman wasn't like practically talking. He would be talking out his ass about all this stuff, everything except Israel, right? So he was all about.
You bring up a very good point, and some people Jen's mentioned it, that Brad Lander's a liberal Zionist. I'm sure he's a liberal Zionist, but you know what Brad Lander is? He's a smart politician. He knows where his bread is buttered, and he understands that Zohran's the boss, like he's in charge. And if you get out of line, it's not going to end well. And he's already displayed that in a multitude of ways in that election. And on top of everything else, I don't want heirs to the Levi Strauss billionaire fortune doing public service. We don't need you doing that. Now you can agree to, or we could agree to disagree whether Claire Valdez or Darlisa Chevalier from a socialist, or even dare I say, especially with Chevalier, a communist perspective, should be governing us. But I will say this, I will take them over a Dan Goldman any day of the fucking week on Capitol Hill. That's that. And anybody who disagrees with that, you're a cuck for the billionaire class. Don't be one. There's a lot of different ways that we could solve problems, which is why, as you know, I love Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is as true conservative as it gets, and he doesn't answer to anybody other than himself and his constituents. And that is exactly what we need more of in the United States.
Yeah. It's funny enough, I didn't actually the only one I paid attention to, of course, was like Jose Vega, because I really like him. I adore him. Unfortunately, Richie Torres again won out. He has a very strong hold on, there's a large Jewish, conservative Jewish constituency within Richie Torres's, within that district. So I don't know that much about any of the other candidates. I saw the freak out though, of course. I'm just laughing to it.
And I also want to point out, and I said this before, I'm not a fan of Piker, and I probably never will be. However, I want to give him credit. He is using his platform to get his people on the phones. They are phone banking.
Yeah,
they are doing tens of thousands of calls. If you're doing it for that purpose, man, hey, I applaud you. I give you credit, because that's what you should be. That's what people who have platforms that size, that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, and Charlie Kirk had that platform.
Yes.
And just think, if he had been able to rally for Thomas Massie, well, it never would have happened. It just never would have effing happened. And that's why I don't know that much about, I don't have strong opinions about people on the left. I mostly only focus on the right. I'll be honest with you. I just don't have that strong, I know who controls this country, and it is the corporate oligarch, which definitely leans right for the most part. And so I don't stress about far left. If somebody wins, comes in. And again, we've seen this before with like the AOCs and whatnot, I'm always like, all right, we'll see how they are when they actually get in there. I don't have high hopes for anyone.
I'll tell you one thing, and I'm going to pull up the Tucker clip to finish out what he was saying with Bruesewitz. Whatever ambitions AOC may have had, probably still has, she now officially has taken a back seat to Zohran, and she's never getting it back. So you had your chance and you blew it. And now with people like Valdez and Chevalier, you can kiss it goodbye. So maybe she'll have some role to play, but in terms of her being a boss lady, and she comes off like such a fucking mean girl. I mean, you're a woman, Jen. You guys probably identify this much better than I do. But from an objective perspective, when I look at Alex, I see somebody who's got a very vindictive streak that people just don't understand. Like I can see that, and so
I see a pick-me girl. I see a girl who's been trying for a long time. See, I've been in her campaign finance. I know what she spends all her money on, and this girl spends money like ain't nobody's business.
Out of style.
It's
like,
obscene.
Out of style.
It's obscene. Okay.
Well, I always said that the thing that always struck me was that she was, especially when she did that Vanity Fair cover in, I think, her second year when she did with Pelosi and a few others, I said, oh, she's into the life. Like she's into the life. And once you get into the life and you know from a real world perspective, like Massey's he's a great contrast because he's like a Renaissance man. Like he's a real, like almost like a mad scientist. Like he doesn't need Capitol Hill. Whereas with Alex, this is all she's got. Like this is her life. And so you're going to do everything you can to protect it. And she certainly is. So let's finish out what this douchebag had to say regarding Tucker's language regarding Israel and his involvement with Charlie Kirk.
By the way, like I did see something that you were on a podcast yesterday. You said you
than that. How would you know? You don't know. So stop yelling at me to accept a conclusion that you can't prove.
I hear you.
Why would you do that? This is my friend. I'm not and by the way, if I was murdered, I would expect people who loved me not to jump to unwarranted conclusions, but to press federal law enforcement to do its freaking job.
Yeah.
And stop calling people names because they're asking you to do your job.
I think a lot of people did jump to unwarranted conclusions.
Maybe.
Though.
I don't know if they're warranted or not.
And, right after the assassination, many people were with big platforms, not you, were saying that Israel was behind it.
Many people with big platforms were saying that he was killed for his views on transgenderism. And we don't know that, actually. We don't know anything.
But Charlie was killed as he was talking about transgender. And this guy, Tyler Robinson, seems to be in love with transgender people.
That may be absolutely true.
Honestly, Mel, when a guy like this talks like that, I want to just knock his fucking teeth out. Like I really do. Like
I nearly lost my shit last night over that exact comment. Okay, because I want to pull this up for you guys. Let me see. I'm going to share this for you real quick because what he said is actually significantly more preposterous than most people really realize.
I'm sure.
Okay, so there it is. Can you see it?
Yes. All right. So I'll pull this for a second and we'll pull this up. Here we go.
Okay. All right. So according to Alex Bruesewitz, he shot Charlie when he was when he was answering a question about transgenders. Okay. So what we have to believe for this whole FedSlop narrative, okay, is that Tyler Robinson, who had never been to UVU before September 10th, all right, shows up. He scouts out the campus for about less than an hour because he's on the campus, then he's off the campus on the Ring doorbell. Okay. And somehow he figures out before it's even set up exactly where he needs to be, exactly when he needs to be there in order to murder Charlie Kirk. He directly walks from God knows where. We've never actually been told where he's actually coming from. But he's walking with the rifle shoved down his pants the whole time. He finally makes his way over to the top of the Losi Center at approximately 12:17. He climbs over this short wall and he appears to crouch down on the north side. There's this little building up at the top. He's crouching down and he waits there for 5 minutes. Okay, then he just hears Hunter Kozak just out of nowhere. He just hears it that he's talking about the transgenders. Well, I'm here to avenge the transgenders. So he hops up, he runs across the roof, he drops down with his book back. Okay, he sets the rifle that he has actually reassembled that in that 5 minutes. He had reassembled, screwed it all back together, got the scope all realigned and everything, sets it up, and within 45 seconds, All right. So technically 1 minute. They do round, even though that's actually not correct. But we're going to give them 1 minute. And that's when Hunter Kozak asks his very next question. And what do you know? It's again about trans shooters. What are the effing odds that Tyler Robinson has that kind of timing? Okay. When you can't even friggin' hear the questions being asked if you listen to any audio recording set from outside the amphitheater. What are the freaking odds of that? I mean, are we allowed to ask questions that simple? No, apparently not. Apparently we're just supposed to effing accept it. That, yeah, it's, and somebody said, you know, the problem with Mossad is they're always a little too on the nose. Somebody said that last night, and I have to agree. They actually are just, it's just a little tad too on the nose, right?
Oh my, you know, the one thing about being a beautiful woman, and you are a beautiful woman, is that you got to get a kick out of some of the, I cannot even imagine the type of DMs you get. I would probably laugh. Some of them I would be like, all right, you seriously need to get your nuts cut off. But there's also ones where I'm like, oh my God. And in some ways, you know, you gotta feel for them, because I do. And this is one of the things I'm going to get to after we finish our conversation, because I'm going to be talking about Asmongold. And it's like, people don't understand how somebody like that gets so big. And it's like, well, the truth is that there are a lot of guys out there that, you know, they don't have interpersonal communication skills. Like, they just don't have them. And it is sad. And this is sort of what the digital age has become. In a way, it's our greatest asset and our greatest detriment at the same time, because the fact that we do have this digital age, we are able to have these communications. Yesteryear, you know, Kennedy assassination, they were able to, I mean, listen, I'm sure a lot of people were questioning it, but it was a lot easier to sweep this stuff under the rug. Like, people didn't know that this was going on. Today, you really can't sweep this up anymore. They can watch us, you know, Big Brother is in our business 24/7. That's what these things are for. This is really a listening device. I mean, let's be honest. But at the same time, so much of us are aware. And I've always said the reason that the United States will never be taken over as a fascist country is because there's too many armed citizens in this country. If the people really had to rise up, they would.
Oh yeah. Oh honey, I know.
In the UK and Australia, but you know, that's one of the reasons why. And
well,
so,
it is. We are the most armed. We actually, the United States citizenry is the most well-armed army on the planet. Okay. I have more guns than probably most people can imagine. I have a lot of ammo. I like guns. I'm a conservative woman.
well, listen,
I like them. They're
even
fun.
that. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, we support the Second Amendment. And so as far as I'm concerned, to be honest, the people who mostly need guns are women. Women.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was terrified. I always, you know, if you have I don't know about your audience, but the first time I ever went to a gun range, I had a panic attack. It was very scary to me. It was so scary. I always recommend to women, go to an outdoor range. Then when I went to the indoor range, it was like nothing. After I had experienced it, I was but I never had a panic attack in my life until that one time. And I've never had one since. So it is scary. It is a very scary thing. But once you get over it, I promise you, like, you will feel so empowered. And it's just, guns actually aren't scary things. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to handle it, if you know how it works, the most important thing is to understand how exactly it works and to understand ammo and all the things. And once you do, and this is not complicated stuff. Once you get it, you will feel so much better. I promise. Like, and even if you don't even want to own a gun, just to understand how they work, how they operate, how, you know, the power behind them and whatnot. So I'm a big proponent of educating yourself on that, even if you don't even want to own one.
In terms of the America First movement and what I do believe is going to be the natural third party split in the United States, I think it's inevitable.
It's coming. It's so coming.
I've said this to, you know, friend of the show, Clint Russell. I would say to you that I would say if there are two major issues that if you could bring two sides of the working class together, it is the Second Amendment from the right and single payer healthcare from the left. If you can agree on those two primary issues and basically just all bets are off the table, that more than anything else is what the powers that be fear. They fear the whole uniting of sorts around this.
That's perfect.
He's one of our good people in the chat. He's a funny guy. You're a funny guy. You're a funny guy. And that's why when I see people like Bruesewitz go on with Tucker, it just further confirms what I think we all believe, which is there is this protection racket that goes on in DC. And he is a part of it. Obviously, he's fully on board with the Israel cause. And at the same time, we also see a lot of people that should be speaking out that are not speaking out. Now, I don't know if you know this because I don't know how much you watch the channel, but I lost my job. Like I was fired a few months back, and it turns out that the person. So here's what was happening. The brokerage that I was working for reached out to me privately to say that somebody powerful in South Florida politics was reaching out to the brokerage, basically demanding my head. Or if they didn't fire me, they were going to go to corporate and they were going to make this a big thing all over the country. And they were going to come after all of these people. Well, it turns out that the person in question who ended up doing this was is a close confidant of Laura Loomer. And once that happened, to me, it's like, all right, so all bets are off now. Like, I don't care what happens to her or what happens to anybody else. But when you put yourself out there, as I have, as Jen has, you are taking a risk. We could take the easier path and just play along. And it's a complicated issue. And blah, 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 blah.
It's not. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it was worth it because in the end, I know that I could lay my head down at night because I don't know how anybody could look at those babies, look at those kids, look at Hidden Rajab and everybody else that we've seen and think that because we were born, I forget how Jen says this, but it's like from the Hunger Games. It's you were born you weren't born in the 12th district. You were born in the city. You are fortunate enough to have been born white and attractive.
We were all born in the capital.
In the capital. Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
And the people that were born in District 12 were not so fortunate. And so our attitude is, fuck them. Who cares anyway? They're brown or they're whatever. And it's like, no. In fact, the Palestinians are some of the most educated people on the planet. And I could never feel like I've ever done enough. And I'm sure you feel the same way. But what we are doing is making a difference. I know it is.
Well, yeah, and you know how it is because Donald Trump sent Alex Bruesewitz out to try to make amends on Tucker Carlson yesterday. That's what that was about. Just so it didn't work. It was actually a giant flop, and Bruesewitz walked away, and he has been spending the entire day between licking his wounds and making amends for pissing all the people off. But it's most important to understand, if you're on the right, that Trump sent Alex to make amends. Okay? Why? Because Tucker is gaining and MAGA is losing. Okay? Amen. So that's where it's at. This is the boat that's actually going to sail. Why? Because it is floating on a sea of actual morals and values, right? As opposed to, I don't even know what the F they're floating on anymore over there, because they have to, every single day, it's something new. As the tiny winds. Now it's, we're going to make the Egyptians and the Iranians play under the pride flag or whatnot. And it's like, since when does the right get off on freaking pride stuff? And it's like, you losers, you have so little to show for the BS that you have done that you're going to take a win on actually celebrating pride. Which whatever, I don't even care if you do or don't, but trying to force clearly Muslim crowds that's not their thing. They don't want to do it, and they shouldn't have to do it. Okay. And and that's where you're going to get your freaking wins. What a bunch of losers,
and that's also, and that just, that they're doing the meme of the B-52 bomber that's dropping the bomb, but they're dropping it with a rainbow flag, so that makes it okay. And but in the end, they're running Lincoln, who is one of the 3 greatest leaders, in my opinion, this country's ever had, along with Washington and Roosevelt. Not talking about Teddy Roosevelt. What you have to remember is that Lincoln's greatest saying, and I truly believe this, was you can fool some of the people all the time. You can fool all of the people some of the time. You cannot fool all of the people all of the time. And that is where we are now. They're trying to fool everybody. And even people, like you said, that have been reaching out to you that are Christian conservative, maybe even evangelical, and they're waking up. They're realizing I've been lied to. This is not right. This is against God's will. This is against the teachings of Christ. This cannot stand. And so even though we wish people would have woken up sooner, at least they're waking up. And
Absolutely.
Once it's an avalanche, you can't stop it. So that's our job. Our job now is to make sure that boulder rolls down the hill and it never stops until Palestine is free. Final thoughts before you go.
Yep, that's where we're at. And, just always remember that people, and I do have to remind myself of this all the time, is that, I've been in this October 9th, 10th, maybe. I'm like hardcore throwing every caution to the wind. I don't give an F. I was just talking about, this with somebody yesterday about, it was scary on the right, because I knew for a long time, but I had always tried to kind of, weave that, walk that real fine line. Oh, well, why don't we just treat Israel like everybody else? Yes, they're our ally, all the things, and October 12th, I just said, what's going on here? And I've never looked back. And so it's been a long time, right? We're coming up on 3 years now, and it's easy to forget, and it's very easy. And I see this all the time with people who have been, maybe you woke up for a year or 2 years and whatnot, and you think, well, if you're not awake by now, then screw you. You have to understand some of these people have been subjected to military grade propaganda for 50 freaking years. Okay. We have to be patient with them. We have to be understanding, and we have to grant grace. All right. And be gracious, give grace and understanding, and welcome them. And I'm telling you, I have seen some of these women turn into like the hardcore soldiers. I love them so much. They make me so happy. Every time I see them posting, I'm like, yes, and a year ago, they would never have posted these things. And now they're like, long live the resistance. It's so awesome. I love it so much.
It's beautiful because in
It
the
is,
end,
it
this
is.
is what the difference. If there is a true difference between a suburban mom who's conservative versus liberal, is that both are creatures of comfort, but conservatives are willing to fight in a way that liberals are not. And that means taking actions into their own hands in a way that if it requires them to fight, they will fight.
Yeah.
And that to me is a big difference. And it's a difference where, as Jen would even point out, even with her very progressive tendencies, she has told me time and again, she's never felt safer or in a better place than in Northwest Georgia, which is a very rural part of this country. But the people there are real and they look out for each other. And that is a different vibe than you will get in places like South Florida or places like, Charlotte or even, Asheville. It's just a different world. And I respect that everybody has a different way that they want to live. But in the end, and this is something I've been saying a lot lately, and I'm going to say it to you, and this is what we'll part on. Being comfortable is not a right. It is a privilege. If you are comfortable, you have to, it is something that cannot be guaranteed. Callum, get the fuck out of here. You have to fight for this. Like it's like anything. People have said throughout history, the seeds of liberty, they suggest that it has to be paved with blood, but it doesn't have to be. But you always have to be willing to stand up if it ever comes to that. And right now, we're in that situation where if we don't collectively fight as a United States of America, we will lose our country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And real quick, Jen is effing awesome. And I love her. And she every day shows up to fight. So F off. Okay. So
Love you, girl. Appreciate
all right.
you.
Bye, guys.
Guys,
Bye.
check it out. We'll be
Yes.
in-
Bye, Peter. We'll see you soon. Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mel. Bye. So it's been a fun evening so far, but we're not done yet. And if you guys are here and you're still supporting the efforts, despite what some people in the chat have to say about Jen, because I'm not even going to address it. I think it's ridiculous, but whatever. Just remember, you could go to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heaviness, like Rodney Dangerfield talk about. We are a suppressed channel, but we're still fighting hard. And so let's give a big shout out to Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. FIFA stifed Iran to spare Trump and Yahoo for embarrassment. Hey, you might be right about that one. Jim Taleb with the $5. Hey, I never said trust me. Jen's another story. I wouldn't trust me. I'm a trustworthy guy. You know that. Jim Taleb with the $5. Stop messing with me right now. I'm trying to get through this. Thank you for the $5. Binary Fairy becoming a YouTube member. I really appreciate you as always. You do an amazing job supporting the channel. So does Piano Man with the $10 super sticker. Citizen Pendejo with the 50 pesos. The notion Israel invokes Samson is BS. Jews daydream they'll turn the tables on Iran. They long to be the technate. So let's quit appeasing Zios for fuck's sake. I don't agree. I absolutely 1000% believe in the Samson option. Push comes to shove, I do believe that they will go nuclear in more ways than one. Sean M with the 199. Love this collab. Appreciate you being here, my friend. Free Person, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Lake Vac with the 1999. Catherine Austin Fitz reported 21 trillion missing from the Treasury. That is the FBI's responsibility, and to pause from entrapping people and whose small fries committing the honest robbery on the street with a gun. Look, the Pentagon has not passed an audit in how many years? Have they ever? I know that this is something that Bernie Sanders, Rand Paul, and Thomas Massie have attempted to work together on, auditing the Fed. Lord knows we are never going to have that unless we have a revolution. Libertarian Social Dem with the 499. I was at a Fishback rally. I am only supporting him for anti-Zio cause, but his Groyper-aligned campaign with Joe Weub is racist and not Massey-like. Look, I don't trust Fishback as far as I could throw him. I think we are where we are, and because Fishback is conducting himself the way that he is conducting himself, we have to come to terms with the fact that Byron Donalds is going to be our governor and that Florida is not yet ready to break away from the Israel cause. It is what it is. Pirate Justin with the $2. Happy White Supremacist Saturday with Peter. White power, baby. Kidding. Pirate Justin with the $2. Fee for being late to the show. You damn right you pay the toll. Pay the troll toll. And finally, Libertarian Social Dem with the 1-9. Which real estate field can I do part-time? It depends. There's a lot of different types of real estate that one can do part-time, which is what a lot of people end up doing anyway. It all depends on what you want to invest yourself in. But when it comes to real estate, I try to stay as far away from housing as possible because it's people's ability to put a roof over their head, which is a significant problem that we obviously know we have in this country. So for me personally, I like retail, I like industrial, and I even like hotels. Those are areas of choice, investment. I am involved in multifamily, but I've seen enough in the multifamily space to know that what just happened in New York, which Jen and I will talk about on Monday regarding the rent freeze, it was inevitable. It's an inevitable result of how people get treated when it comes to housing and how these investor sons of bitches don't give a fuck about the people who live there. And let me tell you, you can't even begin to imagine how sinister that industry is. It's really bad. So with that being said, back to the program at hand. I have never addressed Asmongold on this channel before. I'm going to address him now because as I was pointing out to Mel, as I point out to you guys, there really is something to be said for what we are dealing with here when it comes to, in many respects, a sort of interpersonal communication crisis that we have in the United States, and how people end up drifting towards these wannabe rabble-rousers that act like they're big time. But in reality, Asmongold is, to me, I don't even know what the fuck his name is, but he is somebody who tries to do these sort of misdirection type of streams when it comes to the issue of Israel. It's shit like this that says it all.
Netanyahu informed Trump that Israel will not pull IDF forces from Lebanon and does not consider itself bound by the Lebanon clause in the U.S.-Iran agreement. Okay, you know what? Like, the thing is, this has always been my stance on this. You can never negotiate with these fucks. You just go in there, you bomb the shit out of them, and you leave them. If they
This is coming from a guy who has never seen the gym, much less sunlight, in God knows how many years, and he's saying we need to go in there and bomb the shit out of them. Gee, I wonder why he would say such a thing. Could it be because he's an extremely emasculated incel of a man and gets off on watching other people do it, like this fake chud picture? That I don't even know what the name of that guy was anyway. You know, honestly, to me, it screams very disturbing behavior. It's psychopathic, really, but it's also overcompensation as well.
want to kill each other afterwards, go ahead, be my guest. But the amount of, like, why are we trying to micromanage Israel? Yeah, why are we doing this, base, baby? Yeah, I think he should keep bombing them. By the way, I think Israel should keep bombing Lebanon because Lebanon has terrorists in it. They have Hezbollah in it, and again, they're firing rockets into Israel. They are,
as they should. And I also want to say that for anybody who is wondering why our channel gets suppressed the way that it does, do you really think that, all things being equal, that I couldn't compete in a debate with Asmongold? Look at the size of our channel. Look at how suppressed it is. We have almost 128,000 subscribers, and we still don't have a plaque for passing 100,000. Keaton and Russell at Do Dissonance, who are friends of ours and who are at the same level in terms of subscriber count, they have their plaque. They don't get suppressed the way we do. Speaking the truth comes with a lot of risk. But when you're a shill for the corporate Zionist cause, you get to have millions of views every week because you're doing the work of the establishment. He doesn't care. It's all about getting paid. We don't mind getting paid here. We certainly appreciate it if people want to contribute to our channel. It justifies doing all of this work. But to sell out to get it, it's not worth it. For him, it is, though, apparently. And his name is Zach.
They're firing rockets in. I hope he kills every single fucking one of the Hezbollah members in Lebanon. Every single fucking one. And
why don't you join the military and do it yourself, you fucking pussy? Why is it always somebody else's responsibility to rain death from above that you say is a good thing? And the reason he says it's a good thing, ladies and gentlemen, even though we have $1 trillion military budget, which constitutes a lot of different things, including paying off podcasters like him and Little Ben, he's not going to be affected by this. He's part of the club. But us regular folk, oh, we're affected by all of this. So, in fact, anybody out there, and assuming, you know, I'm not one to talk about looking scrawny. Jack, I don't give a fuck what you think I am. I know I can physically handle myself in most situations. So you can say what you want. But in the end, this guy, no, I tell you, real piece of work. And he's got more bullshit to say.
Only then will the people there have peace. That's good. Yeah, and never negotiate with terrorists. Exactly. Lebanon's a semi-Western country. It is. It's disappointing that they're being taken over by these freaks. So, yeah, that's it. Remember the pager attacks? I do. AIPAC funded. Right. Yeah, and, again, like, it's...
You know, the thing about him making a laugh, if you will, about, I'm AIPAC funded. Here's the thing you have to remember. It doesn't matter, and this is the big issue that Jen and I address constantly, when it comes to people who say this is an AIPAC issue. No, it's not. It's an Israel lobby issue. AIPAC is one of many organizations. Democratic Majority for Israel, the ADL. AIPAC is a problem, but so is J Street. The Zionists for America. I could go on and on, but they're all there. And they all give money in a lot of different nefarious ways. They have shell corporations. They have law firms. They wash this money and they manage to get it to these people so there's not a paper trail. Wasserman Schultz was doing that for years once people figured out that she was taking money from the payday lending and the private prison industry. She couldn't justify that representing really low-income working people in South Florida. So she had to get around it, and that's how they do it. So Asmongold is no different. So when he huffs and puffs about, well, I don't take any money from AIPAC, he doesn't say the Israel lobby. He didn't say that. He said AIPAC. So keep in mind, language matters.
Oh, it's Israel. Israel's so bad. These people are trying to blow you up too, bro. Like, that's it. And we can't have Lebanon looking at Gaza by the end of this, though. That's not my problem. Like, what they do over in the Middle East, like, whatever they want to blow up, whatever they don't want to blow up, it's not my fucking problem. I don't care. I just don't want to have any terrorists. That's it. That's the only thing that affects me as an American. Like there are no terror cells in the Middle East. Everything else is secondary to that. So that's the goal. That's what matters. So many of these people are actual goyim, and you've been convinced that Israel is your biggest enemy while you side with other people that want to ethnically and demographically replace you in a different way, and you think that they're on their side.
This is the same bullshit that you hear in conservative circles when they incessantly talk about Dearborn, Michigan, and how the whole country is going to become Dearborn, Michigan. That's exactly what he's saying. That we are becoming ethnically cleansed. You know what I mean? That's what he's trying to convey. Again, I don't know. Personally, I don't think that he believes anything he says. It's kind of like the line that Winston Zedmore says when he's getting interviewed for the job in Ghostbusters. If it has a steady paycheck in it, I will believe anything you say. And that is exactly what so many of these slop podcasters end up doing. Is the paycheck worth my time? Absolutely, I will say it. It's like the what's-her-face getting caught, the swimmer. Name's slipping me right now. When she's getting caught, saying, okay, so what is it that you want me to say now? What is it that you want me to say regarding what I believe? Where's my money? When they talk about the $7,000 checks, this is a huge part of it.
That's what's happening to you. And you're being played for a fucking fool. You've been poison pilled. And do you know why? It's because you're winning. It's because you're winning astronomically. You're completely destroying every one of their designs. You have totally removed the idea of, genital mutilation for children because they've been psyoped by their parents to think that they're the opposite gender. DEI has been all but destroyed. You've had all of the pride flags hanging off the White House replaced by muscle cars and fucking motorcycles. You have a UFC fight in front of the fucking White House that the president attends for his birthday.
Imagine thinking that that's a flex. If there is one thing that we can say about Reagan that is positive, regardless of whether you agreed with his policies or not. And obviously, we had very significant differences of opinion regarding Reagan's policies. There's one thing Reagan always prided himself on, was respecting the office of the president, understanding the significance of holding that office and always presenting yourself in a leader-like manner. And that is something that Reagan did do very well. The level of disrespect that Trump has towards anything, and I do mean anything, as far as what actual traditions regarding the executive mansion is supposed to be about, he has desecrated it to the point in which I don't know how the hell we'll ever come back from it. From what he did to the East Wing, to the Rose Garden, to the grounds, and this UFC bullshit. It is beyond disrespectful, and this overcompensating individual is trying to suggest that UFC debacle was something to be proud of. Even if you don't believe it and you say it, you're pathetic. I mean, you look pathetic. You might as well act it too. We'll finish it up.
You have had a cultural victory that is so massive and widespread that it's caused them to cancel entire TV shows because they're afraid of the backlash. You have completely destroyed them culturally. And the only thing that they can do, they know they can't beat you. They know that you're winning. They know that the Chud, the year of the Chud, is so powerful, so they're trying to poison you by fixating on something that's not them. Stay focused. Stay focused, because they're not done yet. They're not done, and there are still too many of those people in the problem. And I understand you have problems with Israel. But all I'm saying is that those problems should be dealt with after these. Stay on target. They want to distract you with Israel because they don't want you to look at them. That's the reason why.
Let me tell you something. This guy is hiding a lot of shit in his closet. I don't know if it's because he's wearing those rainbow shirts in both clips, but whatever he's trying to prevent you from talking about clearly is an overcompensation of sorts. And I don't know how I came across this, but this was kind of a dead giveaway. Now, again, I don't care if Zach is that Russell Brand's last. I met Russell Brand. No, I would say that he's a grifter, and Russell Brand is a grifter. He's a lot more than that too. But again, this is a reflection in so many ways of either being closeted in some respects or just being completely emasculated in another, or maybe it's both. And I bring this up because if you could ever capture the incel Groyper pipeline in one tweet, this is it. Men are naturally more attractive than women on average. That's why women need makeup. This isn't me being gay. Are you? It's science. Look at a peacock and a cardinal. Male versus female. Females get mocked. Greek statues dedicated to the peak aesthetic form, overwhelmingly men. No, Michelangelo was gay, in case you didn't know. And then, of course, Mr. Fuentes drops by to say, I agree, in all caps. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I read this, I am reading somebody who truly is overly obsessed with male genitalia, perhaps. Women are the more attractive sex. This is not up for debate. Women have much better personal hygiene. I also believe, and this is just me as a man, objectively looking at this, one of the reasons that I believe a lot of women end up wearing a considerable amount of makeup is because the expectations that are put on women in society to look attractive is eons more insane than it could ever be for men. You want to say that's a patriarchal approach and that's why it's done? I'll give you that one. But in reality, you can never, and I mean ever, question whether or not it is A, more difficult to be a woman than a man. It is. And B, women are the more attractive sex by far. Now, am I saying this is a heterosexual male? Maybe. But I know what I see. And I don't really know what to make of a message like this. But these are men, that's not... Like I said, it is so much easier to be a guy than it is to be a girl. It just is. And you know, this is also one of the reasons why, when we talk about advocating for the Second Amendment, that it's always so much more necessary for a woman to have a piece than a guy for protection. This is also the reason why a lot of men are lacking in interpersonal communication capability. You could call them incels, you call them whatever you want. But Zach Asmongold, like Fuentes, has a very big platform. The Groypers, there are millions of them out there, and they support this. And I do sympathize with a lot of these guys. I do. The world has not been kind to them. They are seeking an outlet. I've told the story when I first had gotten into real estate a few years back. When I was in South Florida, I was checking out a property and I had to look in an apartment, small apartment, might have been 400 square feet. And this guy, and this is the middle of the day, he wasn't working, he was home. He was on his laptop and he was watching Tim Pool in the middle of the day. And there are millions of people out there that are like that. They're looking for an outlet. And so I do feel for them. But guys like Asmongold and Fuentes are taking advantage of them. They're using them to make money. They are using them to keep them in an endless cycle of perpetual hate and anger and resentment. They're not teaching them how to be better. So for any of them who are listening that are wondering, what are some of the ways to be better that can help, especially if you're interested in figuring out how to communicate with the opposite sex or even the same sex. Hey, have at it, whatever works for you. Eating right and exercising goes a long way. It builds up self-confidence. It gives you a whole other outlook. You'll feel better about yourself first and foremost. You have to love yourself first before you even attempt to go out into the world and try to make that impression on somebody else. But it helps a lot. I always encourage people to do that, and it's usually one of the more inexpensive ways to do it. So try it. You might be surprised. I think Jeter's gift basket, and by the way, don't let Jeter's gift basket is allowed to stay here. I appreciate the screen name. Let me tell you. For those who don't know this, Derek Jeter had a lot of girlfriends, put it that way, over the years when he was with the New York Yankees. And he was known for bringing every one of his lovers a gift basket, if you will. This is not a joke. That this is what he would do. He would kind of bring them. I don't know what he would bring them. Maybe Jeter's knows some of the gift items. I guess some of it was like flowers and scented oils and things of that nature. But he was quite the charmer. So I gotta give him credit for doing that. And I was a Yankee fan growing up. But with that being said, I'm not saying that you have to go out there and do that. But there are ways that you can improve your life, and you should. Listening to Asmongold and Fuentes is not the way to do it. They're never going to try to make your life better. They're only going to try to see how long they can extract money from you like the fucking grifters that they are. So take that into consideration the next time you listen to them, and the only thing that they want to talk about is how much they hate women and they think about male dick. Speaking of dicks, I have seen some really, really ridiculous, and I do mean ridiculous, idiots in the Zionist circles. I think this is the most pathetic one I've seen yet. You know Captain America? Well, here's Captain Israel.
אני רוצה לעצור לרגע ולהגיד תודה לכל מי שנלחם יום יום למען ישראל, למען האמת ולמען המאבק באנטישמיות. תודה ליוסף.
Colin, can you blow that up so that we could see the text? Because that is way too small. All right, that'll work. We'll do it that way.
חדד, חן מזיג, אמילי שטריידר, נועה תשבי, אילון לוי, רודי רוחמן, ג'ונתן קונטריקוס, מונטנה טאקר ולכל מי שפועל בחזית ההסברה. כל אחד מכם הוא גיבור בפני עצמו, אבל המשימה שלי כקפטן ישראל היא משהו נוסף. לא להיות עוד קול, לא להתחרות באף אחד, אלא לחבר את כולם. ליצור בית אחד לכל מי שאוהב את ישראל, מאמין באמת ורוצה להפיץ אור במקום חושך. כי כשגיבורים פועלים לבד הם משפיעים. כשגיבורים פועלים יחד הם משנים את העולם. עם ישראל חי, שבת שלום, קפטן ישראל.
Oh my God, I'm going to take that shield and I'm going to bash it over his fucking head. Honest to God, this is... You know, the funny thing about this is that he's cosplaying as an actual soldier. You see, he doesn't have it in him to actually go out there and fight. That's not something he's going to do. He's going to pretend. He's going to dress up like, and again, this is the whole thing about being an emasculated man who talks about going out and killing other people. In reality, what you watched was Captain Israel. And in true Captain Israel fashion, he only pretends like he's tough, unless it's women and children who are unarmed, and then he'll use that shield or whatever the hell he carries, some type of an Excalibur sword with him to do the dirty work. But if he was actually confronted by somebody, classic Israel, stealing another character to make their own, even though Captain Israel exists in the comics completely different. Is that true? Oh, God, no. There's a Captain Israel? Oh, that is so disturbing. Here I am thinking this guy just made it up. That's like really fucking ridiculous. Well, we've got some more Zio hunting to do. And speaking of stealing, and Lord knows Captain Israel has stolen his entire getup. Go find out who directed that movie. That'll tell us a lot. So I texted my friend Rothbone that, you know, we could do a stream just making fun of Lizzie Savetsky. Let's start. Let's see the latest from her Tel Aviv trip.
We have a lot of amazing attractions like the Kotel and the Dead Sea, and of course, Israeli breakfast. Israeli breakfast. Israeli breakfast. I'm gonna start with the malawach because this is my absolute favorite. I never leave an Israeli breakfast without having this. 10 out of 10. Pizza for breakfast, only in Israel.
Okay, honest to God, that looks like either Domino's or Little Caesars. You know, the one thing about certain Ashkenazis, aka Eastern Europeans, they don't exactly have the best, most refined palate. In fact, most of the stuff that they like tastes like shit. She's also not eating the healthiest of food. We'll comment on that in a minute.
I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. This is not even half of the sweet parts. We're going to start with this almond croissant. 9. It's as good as Paris. Now for something even sweeter, let's try Nutella waffle. 10 out of 10. Halva. Let's try this. This is the pretzel one. So good. 9.
I don't want to make fun, and I don't want to assume or presume to say that I know what this woman does after she eats her food. But let me just say that based on what she typically is eating in the videos that she shows, and she looks like somebody who might weigh even less than Medea Benjamin, there is a reasonable presumption to be made that perhaps she's having her food come back up after she eats it. Pretty sick to look at. But as you can see, everything that she claims is the Israeli breakfast is stolen. Stolen from somebody else. And that's what they do. They lie, cheat, and steal. So that should not surprise anybody. And is it really that surprising that they act this way? No, it's not. And so I want to bring it all full circle back to what's been going on over the past week. When you think about the really complaining, bitching, pathetic Zios in Brooklyn when it comes to Poetica coffee, they're not giving up on this even though there's really nobody there, but it also goes to show you just how pathetic they really are.
I'm gonna separate you guys. You don't want to use ice. We know our rights. We're protesting just like they are. Y'all are fucking crazy. Y'all think we ain't gonna have no goddamn microphone. Say it clear, say it loud. Poetica, you make us proud. Say it clear, say it loud. Poetica, you make us proud.
Zion terrorists, baby killers.
Don't let me buy okay, they can refuse. They can refuse service to you.
He's the owner. He's refusing.
He's telling you he don't want to use ice.
I want to buy coffee. He's refusing to serve you.
Sir, don't put your hands on. Don't put your hands on.
I like to buy coffee.
He says no, that's it.
I want to buy coffee.
Okay, go somewhere else. Go to the coffee shop across the street. Go get
That's
coffee
my
there.
right to buy coffee.
And they have the right to refuse service. They have the right to refuse
service.
service. Yes, they do. They have the right to refuse service.
Do you have a God? Do you love Hashem? Do you love God? Do you love Jesus? Who do you love?
I'm gonna separate you guys. You guys gotta separate yourself.
Thank you, NYPD.
You don't know how to take no for an answer.
Yeah.
If you look closely, you can see that his hat has an I Heart New York with a Star of David symbol. That's how nuts these people are. Just remember, they are Israel first. They do not give a shit about our country. And are there people that live in the United States that hate our country just the same? Absolutely. But they are not anywhere near the level of the economic ladder and impact politically and economically that the Zionists have. That's the thing about punching up, as Jen and I say constantly. What are you going to do? Punch somebody who doesn't have a pot to piss in, who says fuck America? They're saying fuck America. They're just doing it in a different way. They're making trouble for people who don't need it. In fact, what they're really doing is creating the Streisand effect for this business that desperately needs it.
No, I don't. Judaism, yes. Zionism, no. The state of Israel must go.
Bro, there's other coffee shops.
I want to buy coffee over here. I have the right to buy coffee over here. Huh? They have to.
No, they don't.
They do. They don't have to. They're going to close the shop.
APAC is losing its grip on the city. That APAC money over. Y'all power is losing. Y'all saw y'all got voted out? That's right, goddammit, y'all losing power out this motherfucker. But the game about to be over. Free Palestine! I just want to thank you for standing with humanity, for standing with the people of Gaza who have lost their lives from this genocide, from this literal Holocaust committed on Palestinians for the last 78 years. For the last 78 years. As a man with Jewish history, a man with Jewish family, I must say this. Fuck Zionism.
It's always great to see a person who's Jewish looking right at that flag and saying fuck Zionism, because that carries a lot of weight compared to many others. It does. It pierces through. That's the difference. And it is breaking through. We are breaking through. And as much as it pains us, because we know that we're not anywhere near through where we need to get to in order to end this. Remember, one of the things that the Zionist cause is going to do that we have to be aware of, that we have to be on the lookout for, is how far they're going to go to try to take over as many communities. They may not be able to fully take over countries the way they would like to, although Argentina, I think, is probably finished. That being said, look at the clip that we dropped earlier, or I think last night, regarding the Aussie billionaire, Gina Reinhardt, the mining billionaire. We want to give free land to the Israelis? And that's in Australia. That's in Perth. Think about the other places where they're going to go. The financial domino is always the last one to go. But as we are seeing, and Jen and I will discuss this at length on Monday, it is very heartwarming to see that the Lebanese are channeling the Albanians in their opinion of their government, attempting to make a deal with the Israelis right now. They're not having it either, and they shouldn't. We have an obligation to make sure that we here in the US run them all out of town. Make them scared. Make them never want to pick up their heads ever again. That's how it should be. I do not apologize for feeling this way, not even a little bit. You get what you deserve. And they have more than earned it. And let's remember, when they talk about the mistreatment of Jews going back centuries, where do you think that mistreatment was happening? It was happening in Europe. It wasn't happening in the Muslim countries. And that's a big thing. That is a big lesson for people to understand, where so much of it is based on culture and the race element that is facilitated primarily by the Ashkenazis, which are from Eastern Europe predominantly, Northern Europe even. It's always been a class war, a culture war, and yes, even a race war, all in the name of supremacy. Jewish supremacy, white supremacy, whatever you want to call it. But this is how the divide and conquer strategy works. But when the people start figuring it out, you're never putting that cat back in the bag. So to say that it is cathartic to see this happening, cathartic to see that Dan Goldman was treated like the genocidal bitch that he is, even though he's super rich, and that he can't just do whatever he wants. And the same people that thought that they were going to harass Poetica Coffee in reality completely Streisanded the business. And now people are going to Poetica Coffee on the regular. It is a heartwarming story, and we need more of them. We'll finish it out.
Free Palestine! Fuck Zionism! This deranged evil ideology! This deranged evil ideology! This ideology which is no different from Nazism!
This is history will show you. This is how they think. David Ben-Gurion worked very closely with Adolf Hitler. Don't forget that. They're not fucking around, which is why we shouldn't either. Let's make sure we do what we have to do to make sure that Zionism falls. I am personally proud of the ruins of Gaza, and that every baby, even 80 years from now, will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did. There is no rehabbing this. There is no negotiating with these people. There is only the end of their stranglehold over our culture, our land, our society, our economy, and the world. The fight continues. Free Palestine. For those that stuck around to the end, we really appreciate you as always. We've gotten a slew of additional super chats. We got to get to them. Appreciate you guys. Pirate Justin with the $2. Is Asmon doing it for the shekels or the game? I don't care what he's doing it for. He's a douchebag and he should be treated as such. And for the $2 again, F. Asmongold and the Zios he defends. The Zios who pay him handsomely, mind you. Sean Rockers TV with the $5. Hearing him makes me feel like the only dumb gym-going himbo with some common sense compared to a smelly loser named Asmongold. Great show, Peter. Appreciate you, pal. Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. Massey needs to revive Goldwater conservatism before it was taken over and the worst elements were added to it. By the way, if you've never heard Reagan's speech at the 64 convention, listen to that one. Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. At least Reagan was welcoming to immigrants. Again, Reagan was a net negative, but that doesn't mean there weren't things that he did that didn't have positive. But again, net negative. And he tipped off a starting point that we never came back from. He's still feeling it today. Pirate Justin with the $2. Maybe guys like Asmon are just hate farming. Yeah, it's effective. Hate sells. Hate gets you clicks. Hate pays the bills and potentially makes you rich. And with the $2 again, God bless Poetica Coffee. F those Zios. I agree. Libertarian Social Dem with the $4.99. My Muslim community better elevate pro-Palestinian and non-bigoted conservatives like Mel Witte and support her in being a Southern conservative is needed. I agree. Definitely agree. And Libertarian Social Dem with the $1.99. Orlando is starting place of Florida to Desio baby steps. Maybe. There is a lot to like there. Of course, that's why you have to support Ann Escamani for mayor of Orlando. And finally, Carson Cruz, $10. Jen, Peter. Sorry, Peter. Appreciate you being here, Carson. Remember, Saturday night is the solo show. So, and did we get one more? Yes, we did. Let's give a shout out to 0744 Pete with the $5. Keep doing what you are doing. It matters. That's why we do it. That is all the reason why we do it. I remember, I can still remember the conversation that Jen and I had about, is this the right, if this is the direction we're going to take as a channel in October of 23. But in reality, we were already there for about a year plus. We had done Deconstructing Zionism. We had a lot of great panels. It was a really important decision to make. Thanks for that info, Miss Kiwi. And congratulations to your Knicks. That was a long time coming, and that's a great group of guys that just won that title. Sorry, Jen. Poetica Coffee Shop has a good menu. They have tea too. Got them in my go-to list next time I'm in the city. And hot dog with the $5. I tell you, I'm suffering from a hangover. Aren't we all? I know you guys are not going to let me leave, are you? Peter with the Pirate Justin with the $2. Let's keep Peter up all night. No, I don't want to be up all night. Still got work to do, and you know, this is a testament also to you guys just being a really great audience. You know, we didn't have 800 tonight, but we had 600. So you guys showed up and showed out. I can't do that. That's not healthy, by the way. And I'm very grateful. We're very grateful for all that you guys do to support us, to lift our spirits. There were a couple of stories tonight that I didn't get to that I'm going to save for Jen on Monday, including the Scottish lady who said free Palestine at the World Cup, where a bunch of Zios decided to show up and start displaying their colors, if you will. And also, Mayim Balak. I was thinking I would do this alone tonight, but I realized this is definitely something for Jen to address too. You cannot, Jen, yes, we will talk about Mayim on Monday. I don't know why you think we can't talk about her. I don't have it in me. We're 2:45 in. I can't do more. This is enough for tonight. So with that said, smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. We'll see you Monday, and free Palestine. Good night, guys.